AI Audiobooks presents The Night King Who Returned with a God by Salam Saleo, chapters 46 through 57. Chapter 46. God of War and Flame. The morning's offensive was scheduled. On the first day of the attack, Andrazin flew into a rage when he heard that the demons had been defeated. What? They fled without a fight? It hadn't occurred to him that the first day's fighting would be enough to take the castle. According to the original story, the battle would continue for the next 5 days before the castle was finally destroyed. You cowards! Andrazin's 8 arms danced, and dismembered bodies leapt up one after another. Ki-i-i-i. The demons decapitated by Androzins were not released into the spirit realm. Their souls were absorbed by the blood-stained drums, screaming incessantly. Androzin pitied the men who had died in the night. By the end of the night, they were as good as dead. In all of history, he was the first madman to run out of the castle and hunt demons himself. What could the madman possibly want so badly that he would abandon the safety of his castle to hunt demons? Androzin didn't know. He didn't realize that the all-night demon hunt was a stress reliever for Leon, who had a panic attack at the sight of demons, just as he was rebuking his men and trying to regroup. What? Androzin's eyes widened as the lush field, the forest, had instantly lost its life and died, though it had technically returned to normal. This meant only one thing. The Queen's dream, broken. This world is a world of innate evil, a place that could corrupt any man or woman. Repeating the dream, he transforms her into a lustful demon with the essence of corruption. For him, endless despair was necessary, and the remaining 5 years were the final step to ensuring her submission. A dream that was supposed to be broken only after her corruption was forcibly broken? Something had happened, and Andrazin grew impatient. Damn it! The Queen is supposed to be reborn as the Lord of Pleasure. That was the order of the current Supreme Archdemon of Pleasure. Androzin led his men and headed straight for the castle. There was little time to gather all the forces, but time was running out. Reynold and the Wisdom. Gen watched on, and Reynold whispered softly, "Shouldn't you go help?" "I'm not going." "You little shit." Reynold swallowed hard. Leon, Coudet, Sung, and Yappy beat the sleepy hunters out of their daze and headed out of the palace. The hunters are dumbfounded as they wake up to find the castle in ruins. What happened? Apparently, we went underground, and what happened? Leon doesn't elaborate on the hunters' questions. For now, it was more important to deal with this rapidly changing situation. Demons! Demons have entered the castle, but the demons were already over the gates and swarming inside, and the hunters couldn't make sense of it. Damn it! Where are soldiers on the walls? There are too many of them. Coudet! Sung shouted to the confused hunters. Raise your shields. At the sound of his voice, the hunters reacted instinctively. Click, click, click. Shields mechanically stacked. In an instant, the finished product was ready to greet the demons. Kill them! Destroy! The demons of lust charged naked, their fighting strength not great, but lust demons are great in numbers. The mass of the frontal assault alone exceeds 100. They're big. The hunters withstand the crashing demons and plunge their swords through the gaps in the shields. Thud! Kick! The lesser demons were easily defeated by the hunters' swords. Terror of the demons. Greatest demon slayers. Demon Lord Slayer. These 3 traits amplify the hunters' damage to demons. Their attacks take on an antagonistic quality, and demons around them are weakened. Add to that, the Lionheart aura and the hunter's defense became sturdy as long as the demons came from the front. Kiek! They were coming from the side. At the end of the defense row, Chief Kim Jin-soo, holding his shield, felt hopeless as the demons came from all sides. Being surrounded meant quick annihilation. And yet, no one is moving. Even though he, a B-rank tanker of the association, was getting nervous, how could these D-rank hunters remain calm and steady? The reason was the presence of knights. Non-existent, weaponless, minimalist machine guns raining down, and steel wires imbued with holy power were swung at speeds beyond recognition. Key. Get? They didn't know what had passed through their torso, but when they realized it, a neatly sliced section slid away. Leon's side was the worst. The demons pissed themselves just by glaring at him, their eardrums bursting at the sound of his rant. 2 holy knights covered both sides of the formation. The blows they unleashed were more powerful than all of the blades wielded by all the hunters combined. Prophet, demon butcher. Center, center, center. The demons were driven back by the hunters. It was better to die in the dust and escape to the spirit realm than to be sliced to pieces by the holy knights on the left and right. It's big. Why is it so heavy? This increased the burden on the hunters, and Chief Kim Jin. Su shouted, Protector Shield. Chief Kim's unique skill, Protector's Shield, a skill that temporarily increases the defense of the entire party by 20. Normally, it's a skill that benefits only sub-tankers, but the hunters here are supposed to be tanks. Androzin shouted from the rear, Work, slaves, and revel in the pleasure of pain. Androzin's crown glowed with a great dark light. The demon's eyes twisted grotesquely as they were exposed to the crown's light. The words tasted of deception. Ki-hi-hi, kalya-ha-ha-ha-ha. The demons screamed and charged. They threw themselves against the shields and didn't care if their torso was pierced. They throw themselves with glee, as if the pain has become pleasure. He was overwhelmed, and the shield was heavy, and he wanted to throw it away right now, but Kude. Sung didn't. The hunters did not move from their positions. Tia, soldier's virtue is to be good at only one thing, to block, and the knight will do the rest. The king commanded them only one thing. Stand your ground and keep the enemy at bay, and the knights will crush them. If we can only hold on, the king will do something about it. The soldiers stare at their king's back as he rides to victory, holding on. Let's go, Stallion. His Majesty Lionheart will see this through, just like he always has. Leon disappeared from the hunter's view as the endless black tide of demons had swallowed him whole. All hope was lost as the black waves were all around him. Leon swung his holy sword wildly at the horde of evil before him. 5 demons screamed at the blow, but others quickly took their place. The demons show no sign of fear. Their bloodshot eyes are bloodshot and delirious. It's a trick the archdemons of pleasure have displayed time and time again. It transforms the pain of the horde into pleasure and turns them into pleasure, seeking maniacs. Lust demons are weak in combat, but with buffs like this they're a nuisance. Insufficient penetration. The enemy is too numerous, and Androzin himself has come to lead the army. The final battle was supposed to be on the last day of the defense, but it was brought forward by the Queen's shattered dream. Can I do it? If only he had the Holy Knights, or at least an order. I can't blame them for not being here. Leon had fought alone a war against evil that lasted 180 years. It was a matter of life and death for all demons and for Leon. But there was a difference between then and now. Back then, he was in a land of divinity. There was faith in the gods, holy power, and the support of all the gods built up since the beginning of human history. But now, faith is lacking, and the only thing he has is his body. The holy arts he practiced for so many years can only be used occasionally, and the holy sword and holy spear have lost their power. Could he do it? No, it must be done. Leon's sword emitted a brilliant light, and layers of light cut through the demon. For the sake of the soldiers who watched his back, for the sake of the gods to whom he would give glory and honor. Even if he is alone, he must do it. That is why he is the Lionheart King, the sole agent of the gods. For Lionheart. It was then that a black, magical blade flew out, but Leon's holy sword deflected it. However, the deflected blade slashed at Stallion's throat. Stallion. Leon falls to the ground as Stallion collapses from the blow. The Grail summoned rushed to repair his wounds, but they were not easily healed. The Knight's fall was an opportunity for the minions, and a wave of demons rushed toward Leon, intent on devouring him. Stone strike. The masses collided, and the moment of impact was dramatic, but with a bang. The demons were bounced back by Ricardo Burns and the Death Knights. Warlord. King Lionheart. Wraiths who cut their own throats in their glory days and are now wandering the netherworld. Royal guards, loyal to the Queen, even in death, left her side and are here. Have you awakened from your dreams, knights? Our loyalty to the Queen remains, as it should be. But, if we can make a difference, Leon smirked. He had long been a symbol of hope, even when the world was being destroyed by evil, and even when the gods took refuge in his heart. Even the hunters and the Queen's loyal knights. Then show me. Live up to the expectations. What he had always done against all odds. God of war and flame, answer my call. A strong voice spoke, a divinity that needed no altar, no shrine, only the heat of valor to answer. Still, they are a liability, a flame that could crumble at any moment without you. Then I will stand before them forever, until the day they can stand up for themselves. Stallion fades away as it cries out in disgrace at being summoned back. Thank you, my ally. Rest now. Leon turned to look at the 38 knights protecting him, holding the demons at bay. In their midst, the Lionheart King shouted, I am Lionheart, the greatest rider of Petos, the god of war and flame. At the raspy cry, the demons writhe in pain, and the soldiers and knights recall Leon's presence. War, flame, thy greatest war horseman, asks for the flame of war, here and now. Each syllable, each word carries unbending honor and weight. In an instant, the skin-searing heat and roar shook the battlefield with vibrations. Demons, knights, hunters, all eyes turned to the center of the flames. In the midst of the divine flames, where demons are consumed by the mere touch, a divinity of a density far beyond common sense emerged. It looked like a fire-breathing bull. Unruly and ferocious, they are beyond human comprehension, outside the norm. Leon climbed aboard a giant war chariot drawn by 2 such bulls and grabbed the reins. I, Leon Dragonia Lionheart, greet the Queen's loyal knights. The 38 Death Knights with swords and spears lined up behind the war chariot, backing away from the terrorized demons. You are the proud sword of the Kingdom of Sparrow, the shield of the Queen, entrusted with the noble task of punishing the wicked. Knights of glory, be the flame that purifies evil. The blazing flames of war burned into the blades of the Death Knights. The flames that burned and purified, the unholy recognized them as pure. Follow me. Leon aimed his spear and led the way like usual. We will be victorious. Chapter 47. Demon Slayer. The Death Knights. The Queen's Guard have felt the changes that the flames of war have wrought. Their eyes grew brilliantly clear, and the hands that gripped their weapons were glued together, unable to be separated. The soles of their feet felt surprisingly light on the earth. How could they have been so clear, so pure, so warm, when they had been reincarnated as dead wraiths? Follow me. The leading Lionheart King aims his spear. Then we shall win. The chariot spurs to life as flame. Breathing bulls pound the ground with their imposing 4 legs. Ghost horses followed, but none could keep up with the bulls and the Lion King. Leading the way alone is dangerous. Sparrow Castle was filled with a horde of demons. The bulls were certainly imposing, but even so, The moment they crashed into that black wave, it was like a light that would eventually be swallowed up. The Death Knights and Ricardo Burns thought so, but light cut through the darkness, and the blackness, as inky as the sea, was melted by the flames. The bulls' formidable glares and strength make the spears of the demons retreat, and the flames they breathe burn before their eyes, reducing the blackness to black powder. It was like an excavator unleashed from its speedlet and ploughed full speed into a pack of rabbits. The sight of the creatures trampled, burned, crushed, and torn to shreds was almost sympathetic. The following death, Knights realized that the mere mass of demons in front of the war chariot was destined to be nothing more than a one-sided slaughter. Even the loud carnage and demonic screams were now relegated to an unpleasant background soundtrack. "You insolent bastard!" Androzin shouted in anger, his crown dancing and glowing. The crown of desire, the treasure of the Lord of Pleasure, grants the power to turn Androzin's slaves into death, defying fanatics. The slaves of pleasure rushed forward, frothing and bloodshot, eyes under his power. Riding monstrous reptilian beasts with sharp claws and wielding whips, they charge at Leon and the Death Knights, 200 in number, in fact. Ha. Leon laughs in disbelief at the things imitating horsemen charge and waving ferocious whips. Do you even know what a cavalryman is, you lowly things? A charge is meant to be made with a spear. Not a spear or a sword, but a whip. Mightiest charge applies. Needless to say, the demons of lust that get torn apart in the moment of clash. Flesh rips and bursts, and torn demons splatter in all directions. Androzin didn't expect them to hold off that ferocious charge either. But, what the hell, that one? They outnumbered the enemy by 5-1, but they were pierced without stopping them for even a moment. He knew what the Death Knights were capable of. They were brilliant knights, but in the end, they could not overcome the limitations of numbers. If anyone could have turned the tide, it was those bulls. No, it was the man at the front, leading the war chariot. Shoot! Sweep them away! The demons of lust raised their cannon, like energy weapons they had acquired earlier from the demons of wisdom and exploration, as a barrage of fire rained down on the enemy. Ranged abomination applies to this unit. Troop immunity applies the holy law nullify arrows to units under your control. Death Knights 38 become subject to nullify arrows. The barrage of energy cannons failed to wound the Death Knights. The Holy Knights' extreme ranged aversion negates ranged attacks not only against themselves, but also against their immediate troops. The flip side of this is that the entire unit loses the ability to use ranged weapons. But that's not necessary for a charging unit. Only a knight's valor can shake the battlefield. There is no honor in cowardly ranged weapons. Glory to the Lionheart. Mightiest charge is applied to the unit. Troop upgrade. Increase charge bonus by 400. Troop upgrade. Increase charge bonus by 120s. Troop upgrade. Increase charge bonus by 100. Troop upgrade. Increase the physical resistance of your assault troops by 35. Weaken enemy. Demon races have 80 less charge defense. War Bulls of Petos grants friendly legions the trait. Theutist Demon Slayer applies reduced physical resistance, reduced holy law resistance, reduced melee defense, and automatic soul retrieval to all demons in a 1 chem radius. Over 1,000 demons of pleasure and corruption were swept away in an instant. The demons disappeared like falling leaves in the face of an overwhelming breakthrough. Androzin was dumbfounded by the horrific reality before him. Only one person made the Death Knights so strong. Even the Death Knights themselves were unbelievable. But what about Androzin? Bastard! 8 arms swung their halberds at Leon, who was closing in. Ooh. Ooh! Ooh! The two bulls roar as the rampaging bulls cut themselves free from the chariot, and one of them crashes right into Androzen's shin bone. The divine beast's charge brought even the archdemon to his knees, as Androzen's height of over 5 meters was instantly lowered. Not good enough. Where did the Lionheart King go? Just then, a shadow fell over Androzen as the flame-encrusted holy spear rained down on him. Ah! Androzen narrowly avoids it, and backing away, he cries out, "Slaves, kill him! There are still thousands of demons around, and if they come in waves, even the lion-hearted king won't be able to withstand them." 1 minute! The Lionheart barks out his orders as the Death Knights sweep through the demons with flaming blades. In the circle they create, Androzen and Leon stand face to face. "Lionheart, are you the one who killed Dothradin?" "Dothradin?" Leon smirks as he summons his holy sword. That oversized fatty. The flaming holy sword and lance are pointed at Androzen, as Leon declares. That lowly pervert was torn limb from limb, and your fate will be the same. You. Androzen threw his halberds with the ability to fly and chase enemies. In response, Leon raised his spear. You rely on the power of magic, not your own strength, and that is why you are weak. Leon hurls the holy spear, the 8 flying halberds. While he despises ranged weapons, he does not discredit ranged attacks. Weak conscripts and serfs can wield bows and cannons. Knights, however, should not. A knight is disqualified if the wind generated by his sword is weaker than an arrow. Bang, bang! The thrown holy spear deflects the flying halberds. After deflecting 3 of the 8 in all directions, the unabated momentum finally sliced off one of Androzen's arms. One of his arms was blown off, but Androzen didn't have time to rage at the pain since a chill ran through his body, making him shiver. The knight charged through the 5 blades with his holy sword as layers upon layers of brilliant light glowed, ready to cut Androzen's throat. Crave! Then the crown Androzen wore glowed. The crown of desire revealed the primal desires of Leon and all creatures everywhere. Oh, no, danger! Lionheart! Only the non-living, the Death Knights, are not swept up in that longing, but not the living Lionheart King. The crown of desire has lulled even their greatest queen into sleep. If the Lionheart King would be tempted, even for 1 second, he would die at the hands of the archdemon. As the dejected Death Knights hastily tugged at the reins, they saw the Lionheart King wielding his fiery holy sword. Ka! Ka! He leaped forward and slashed down, cutting Androzen from the tip of his shoulder to the center of his chest. It was a fatal wound. How did you escape the illusion of craving? Androzen stumbles backwards, clutching his shoulder in pain, and Leon gives him a mocking look. Even the Lord of Pleasure could not deceive me. So how can you deceive me? Every living thing has desires that it craves. How can a man not be tempted by them? Only inscrutable emotion wells up in Androzen's eyes as he looks at Leon. No! Stop him! Stop him! Stop him! Androzen begins to fall backwards, panting. The queen has been corrupted, and now he must flee. To die by the sword of a holy law user would be true annihilation. Androzen immediately opened the demon gate, hoping to buy himself some time to escape. But then, with a thunderous roar, 2 fiery bulls charged in front of Androzen. Grrr! Androzen falls to the ground, and Leon holding the holy sword was in front of him. Die! Wait. Androzen's shout stops the holy sword in its tracks, and he begins to babble incoherently. Coward! Coward? It was a duel, and a divine being intervened. Certainly. It's not honorable for a third party to intervene in a 1-1 duel. That, yes. But the holy sword shines brightly, and Leon's expression is determined. I have no honor to show you bastards, for this is not a duel, but a worm extermination. Damn you, you racist. The holy sword struck down relentlessly, decapitating Androzin. At the same time, the magic of the Crown of Desire was broken, and what the demons of lust witnessed was the decapitated archdemon Androzin. As his soul was absorbed into the Holy Grail, they watched in horror. Ah, Androzin is dead. We have to run. Where? At that moment, the demons saw the demon gate that Androzin summoned to escape, but at the exact same moment, Leon saw it too. Run! Gaia! Ah! The demons collapsed in an instant as they started running through the demon gate to save themselves. After the merciless killing and slaughter, many demons survived and returned. It was a swift response. Great One, the plan has failed. Great One? Ha! This game is such a joke. Leon stopped his pursuit as he watched the demons hurl themselves into the demon gate, followed by the knights and hunters who had been slaughtering them in the chase. Stop the chase, Leon said calmly at the words of Ricardo Burns, the Death Knight. I had to leave an escape route open. If I destroyed the demon gate, you'd probably die. Ooh, why? At his question, Leon looked at the cadet hunters, including Kude, Sung and Chief Kim Jin, Su, who seemed to be able to kill the remaining thousands of demons with ease. The soldier's body is exhausted, so we have to stop. Excessive use of force would sacrifice the lesser ones. Is that so? If it were Leon alone, he would have prioritized the destruction of the demon gate and begun the war against the demons. But he was a commander and had many soldiers to be responsible for now. In this battle, the trainees had done their job, and he couldn't force them to do any more damage. All captains, report damage. One by one, the captains came forward at Leon's shout, their faces grim despite the impossible victory they had achieved. Most of them are injured, but they are recovering thanks to the Holy Grail. But Kude. Sung looked at the immobilized men on the shield. Their faces had become familiar over the past month. 6 have fallen. So be it. Leon acted like it was no big deal, but the response made Kude, Sung and the others feel sad. I will pray for them. As the hunters looked on bitterly, Leon's sword was held vertically in front of the bodies of the fallen. War and flame. Here your warriors died an honorable death. Leon drops to one knee. It was a knee he would never bend before the commoners, but for this moment he is only a priest. May their souls be yours. If they have sinned in life, may they be washed away by the great fire, and in death may they be judged for their blazing courage, so that they may feast with the gods. Something transparent escaped from the bodies of the dead. The souls of the dead hunters were sucked into the Grail, just as the souls of the slain demons were sucked out. However, this was not done to crush and extinguish the evil spirits, but as a pious act of welcoming them back. After the cataclysm, the religious world lost its power. Everyone looked to the gods and blamed them for not answering in the face of this unexplained catastrophe. Hunters are atheists who have made death and violence their lifelong companions. They don't seek God, and they don't rely on God. But now there is a saint who performs miracles before their eyes. There is a priest of the gods who shows them the way to salvation from the dreaded death. Gather the names and families of the fallen and report them to me, for their service will be rewarded by the temple. How could that cold, aloof voice be so warm? It was so different from the politicians who emphasized the loyalty and sacrifice of those who died only on the day of the ceremony. The gates to the paradise of the gods have been opened. Your soul is of low rank. You will not be allowed to enter paradise. Your level of faith is low. You will not be allowed to enter paradise. The level of glory you have given is too low. You will not be allowed to enter paradise. Absolute effect. Blessed by the Lionheart King. Enter paradise. Chapter 48.1. Beatrice Alighieri Spiro, magician, queen of the kingdom of Spiro, was a renowned saint. Her kingdom has been prosperous and peaceful since its inception. It seemed like it would last forever. Or so everyone thought until the invasion of demons began. The black hordes, coming from the far west, were at first thought to be a pack of orcs, but they were infamous and powerful. Hordes of filthy lust from faraway realms have destroyed kingdoms in the blink of an eye. The closer the black horde approached, the more the queen realized from the influx of refugees and eyewitness accounts that they were something out of the ordinary. The momentum of the foul creatures would eventually reach the Sparrow Kingdom. Of course, the honorable knights and loyal soldiers loyal to the queen would meet the invasion as they should. They fought back against the hordes of evil that crawled toward them, and the army, led by the magician queen herself, gloried in victory after victory. The refugees of the kingdom, who had been defeated over and over again, were hopeful as they watched the queen rally her troops to repel evil, but it took less than 30 years for that hope to gradually crumble. They are not a warlike group. They are weak, promiscuous, and undisciplined, yet their morale is strangely high and they are strangely energetic. They are a ragtag army of misfits with no faith or cause, but only the pursuit of sordid pleasures, and they throw themselves fiercely into the fray. It wasn't until 3 years ago, when the archdemon she'd defeated returned, unharmed, that she realized they could not die. This war was never meant to be won. They resurrect even when they die, and they willingly throw themselves into the fray because they can't die. The population on this side is being steadily decimated, but they keep coming. No matter how many victories they win, no matter how many demons they slay, they always come back. It was an unreasonable fight, and the war went on endlessly. Hundreds of soldiers, dragged from the crowded battlefields after repelling tens of thousands of demons, were corrupted by horrific torture and pleasure. Demons wearing human skins infiltrated the royal castle, corrupting maidens into orgies. Cults fill the streets, proclaiming the pursuit of limitless pleasure is salvation. The kingdom crumbled as knights of steel were corrupted, and soldiers defending their country pointed their spears at their families. I can't remember the beautiful, peaceful landscape of my homeland that I once saw. I can't remember the days when the streets were filled with people laughing and playing and looking forward to tomorrow. Doom was coming. Queen, make a deal with me. The highest-ranking archdemon offered her a deal. If you accept the essence of corruption and survive for 100 years, I will stop invading this world and return it to its original state. How could she believe him? She didn't even need to ask. The kingdom had fallen, and all that remained was a castle. In the end, her people, her soldiers, her knights, all of them would be lost in the destruction. The archdemon's offer was thoroughly in their favor, but Beatrice had no choice but to accept the demon bargain. It was the only way to protect the people she loved. The demon's traps were vicious. They repeated the destruction of the kingdom for a year, and when the kingdom is destroyed, it goes back to the beginning and repeats the process of destruction. If it were only that, the people would have held on. The soldiers would have held on. But the demons of pleasure and corruption do not kill their subjects easily. In their perverted halls of depravity, they humiliated and tortured them endlessly, subjecting them to the most horrific things a living creature could experience. Not even death could save them, and those who took their own lives became wraiths who roamed the netherworld endlessly. In the end, they had only one choice: to corrupt themselves and join the forces of evil. The whispers of corruption, with their promise of endless pleasure and immortality, dazzled the proud people. Alas, I have failed. The choices I made to save my kingdom have turned my people to evil. The proud queen began to crumble. As she watched her people fall again and again, she realized she would eventually fall. It was no mere amusement that the archdemon of pleasure would go to such troublesome lengths to corrupt her. It's an innate vice that frightens even her, and its colors are corrupting even the most honorable of knights. At this rate, even her knights will be corrupted by evil. The queen hoped to save what remained of her knights. She had broken the pact and fallen, and in return she hoped to save the few remaining knights. My queen, forgive our disloyalty. When one knight finally broke into the queen's bedchamber, the great marshal sealed her underground, killing himself to become an incorruptible wraith. I made you this way, after decades of regret and exhaustion and a doomed destiny, forced to repeat itself. Even though each knew the other's end, the queen wished this nightmare would end as soon as possible. On hidden quest. Save the queen and the kingdom. Leon returned to the castle after killing Androzen, but the castle of the Sparrow Kingdom is no longer filled with residents singing of hope. You mean everyone is already corrupted? Yes. Leon sighed sadly at Ricardo Burns' affirmation. He had seen so many fallen, but the temptation of the demons is hard to resist for ordinary mortals, and the prospect of a horrific death that would be repeated for 100 years would only encourage corruption. There must have been people from the kingdom among the demons this king vanished. Pity them, but do not forgive them. The Death Knights did not respond to Leon's heartless words, but there was another question. What shall we do with the dead? The Death Knights. The undead are unwelcome everywhere, and rightly so. Undead who forsake the life they deserve and seek immortality are despicable. If Leon cannot tolerate them, can they resist? That is not for this king to decide. First, we must see the queen. Leon led the Death Knights to the subterranean chamber where the queen was. Queen Beatrice had been sealed to prevent the corruption from advancing as far as possible, but even that had failed. Leon gazed down at the sleeping queen, breathing heavily. Flo, how is she? At his words, a divinity appeared. It was the goddess of dreams and death, with hair of purple and violet. It's a natural talent, one that those filthy malignants covet, and one that could have produced a truly terrifying demon lorder. It has been said that she can sway a nation by her looks and demeanor alone. The essence of corruption has been planted, and the evil has been amplified. The corruption is already more than halfway complete, but she was not corrupted. She had the vice of lust and desired the death of the knights. What royal or knight would not be moved by this loyalty? Cleon, mark this maiden with my sigil, for if she can accept my ritual, she will radiate a divinity that will drive away the essence of corruption. I will gladly accept, for she is a king who deserves it. Leon felt a sense of sympathy for the queen. He, too, had spent 200 years fighting demons and knew better than anyone how sweet its temptations and whispers can be. Leon touched the queen's body, and divinity flowed through him. From the pantheon within the Lionheart, he felt the goddess of dreams and death enter her. The next moment, the queen's eyes opened, revealing purple pupils. You have awakened from your dream, Queen Beatrice. You have cleared the hidden quest. All participants' corruption resistance is strengthened. You have obtained Crown of Desire. You've obtained Blade of Longing. Chapter 48.2. The battle was over. Androzen, the archdemon of pleasure, has been destroyed. Countless demons have been slaughtered, and most of the demons have fled through the demon gate. Leon's side took a hit too. 6 of his hunters were killed in action. For over a month, the hunters were depressed at the loss of their comrades, in arms, but were relieved to read the message that their souls had made it to paradise. So even if we die, we'll go to heaven. Wow, loyalty! Leon and his gods don't hide in the clouds. They actively announce their existence and invite faith. You shouldn't try to trade with the gods, but that's something they can do on their own to help their followers. Even machines, dead wraiths, and unbelievers get a free pass if they have the Lionheart King's endorsement. Your Majesty, the loot is coming. Chief Kim Jin, Su, and the hunters are professional hunters. Naturally, once they cleared the gate, they took the loot. Is this the crown and sword that the demon used? The crown and sword were tainted with evil, so they needed to destroy them immediately. Bam, bam! Yacht-Spinner approached, his 8 legs pounding the ground, and he began to wire up the beak. "Is this your favorite?" "Heavy metal. Useful. But it is tainted with evil. Blade is supposed to trap souls." Leon understood the nature of the blade Androzin had left behind. A soul-trapping blade made to punish even demons. The souls of countless demons are imprisoned within that blade. G-E-G. Forgive, forgive. I curse you, I curse. Just being in its vicinity erodes one's spirit. Hunters who actually touched it would have been tainted, if not for the restoration of the Grail. I can handle it. It was none other than Holy Knight Yappy, so Leon nodded and gave him permission to handle it. And Orionheart flew. The god of dreams and death appeared in front of them. Ah! The hunters froze at the sudden appearance of the goddess, but Leon shouted, "On your knees, you lowly things." Aye. The Death Knights dropped to their knees, and the hunters fell to their knees as well. Only Lionheart stood tall before the goddess, because he could. "Speak, goddess. Show me the crown that you have won by slaying the bastard. I am afraid it is a cheap object, and I fear it will stain your eyes." "It is all right." Leon held up the crown of longing, and the goddess examined it carefully. A crown of unusual inherent power. I was going to break it when I regained my strength. "I am not unaware of your intentions, but why don't you leave this crown to me?" Flu smiles as Leon tilts his head in question. "This crown, you may not remember, is the one common to the archdemons of pleasure, whose heads you cut off." "Is that so?" To Leon, it was only a sinful morsel. When he cut the throats of worms, what did it matter to him what they wore on their heads? Those ugly demons of lust dazzle the uninitiated with meaningless visions, and this crown contains such power. Perhaps I can extract something from it. It was an extravagant object to be destroyed anyway. I'd be happy to give it to you, if that's what you want. Leon handed it over to Flea without much ado. "Thank you, and you have done well this time. The whole Pantheon rejoices and is grateful for your glory and honor. War, say hello. Greetings." It was then that a man who looked like he was on fire, a male god whose searing gaze is frighteningly intense, descended beside Flay. It was Petos, the god of war and flame. The hunters and Death Knights felt their very existence crushed by the appearance of this fierce deity next to Flea. Arg. For the criminals, the presence of a divinity is as much pressure as a spirit body. What about the Lionheart King that can stand tall under such pressure? Dream and War, I have one request. It's been a long time since I've seen your face, and you're asking me out of the blue. I apologize. What is it? Leon glanced at the Death Knights and saw the Queen still sleeping among them. I beg you, accept their souls. The gods did not listen in vain to the lion-hearted king's request. They have broken the cycle of life and death. You are too rigid, War. The power of death is mine, so it's none of your business. What kind of god authorizes the undead? That's right. The goddess of dream and death looked at the Death Knights. By nature, she should not tolerate their existence. The knights who defy death are beings I should punish, for they are outside the cycle of death. Please, forgive me. At that moment, the Queen opened her eyes with difficulty. She was barely holding on to her sanity amidst the essence of corruption raging within her body, and the divinity of Flu trying to drive it away. Your Majesty. The Death Knights knelt before the Queen. These loyal knights were concerned for their Queen's well-being, even in this moment when their fate was being decided and Beatrice could not turn away from this noble spirit. Alien divinity. The Queen of a lowly nation asks you at the risk of her life. The loyal knights have defended her for 95 years, so the Queen would bend any pride for the peace of her knights. Tlur was torn between the plight of the Queen, the knights, and Leon's request. The undead are a blasphemy against death, and to allow them into paradise is blasphemy itself. Noral Knights of the Queen, no one in the Pantheon can admit your souls to paradise. Yes. Ricardo Burns and the other Death Knights had already made up their minds. They want only one thing, the Queen's safety. But your merits cover your faults. Your integrity impresses the gods, and above all, the Lionheart King has pleaded for your souls to me. Flu proposed an alternative. I cannot admit you to paradise, but I will give you a chance at reincarnation, a chance to cleanse your tainted souls and be reborn anew. It was a mechanism for souls who were unworthy of paradise. Even sinners have the opportunity to purify their souls and be reborn, but the deeper the sin, the more often it is lost in the purification process. But the sins of the Death Knights are not heavy, and they could endure. But Queen and Knights, the underworld of your realm, is not functioning properly due to the lack of divinity in the land. For now, the Temple of 10,000 Gods and all things related to it were being run solely by Leon's Lionheart. But reincarnation can only function when there is enough faith in the land. Queen, become my priestess and help the Lionheart King spread the faith across the land, for it is the only way to bring rest to the souls of your knights. Beatrice bowed her head willingly. Then, Your Majesty, we will go through the formalities with Her Majesty Queen Beatrice. In the aftermath of the Fluctuation Gate, the Hunters Association rallied all the hunters they could muster and prepared for the dungeon break. That lasted a week, when Leon finally cleared the gate and returned home. Wow! Another survivor after the yacht spinner. Pretty. It's not often that a survivor returns from the Fluctuation Gate. Association President Okang. Hugh registered Beatrice as a survivor at Leon's request and also expressed his condolences to the deceased hunters. We express our sincere condolences to the hunters for their sacrifice. 6 hunters died, and under normal circumstances, Leon's graduation ceremony would have been a colossal failure. But this was a Fluctuation Gate that became a red gate, and an archdemon was present, so it's a miracle you made it out with this much damage. I'm sure Lord Spinner has the details, but I also need to meet with the families of the warriors. In person? They were one of this king's few soldiers. It's the least I can do. You can't do that. It could end badly. Mourning the dead is always emotional, and the president of the association worried that the families of the fallen might try to get back at Leon. It's not that I don't understand the wives, parents, and children of the dead, but they will be relieved to hear this king's story. These were souls that Leon had personally blessed and guided, and they would be relieved to know how they would be treated in the paradise of the departed. Those who have lost loved ones will be cared for by Leon's guild, which is the Lionheart Kingdom's way of honoring the fallen. Release the video and summon more hunters. The evil ones will eventually invade your world, and we will need soldiers and knights for that day. Association President Okang. Hayuk has already seen the video of what happened inside the gate. The demons of pleasure and corruption have been seen in Mexico and other places in South America. The city they corrupted in that poorly governed South American country was eventually nuked. Okang. Hayuk had seen the deeds of those filthy, lustful demons time and time again on record. Your Majesty, your power is optimal for dealing with demons, isn't it? Yes. Then, Okang. Hyuk told him about the upcoming association. Wide schedule, and Leon gladly accepted. At the Temple of 10,000 Gods compound in the Naju Plains. The events of the Fluctuation Gate and the cadets' graduation ceremony were not yet finalized, but Leon had an urgent need for help. The people of this world could not help. Only the strength of faith, built up to this point, could get him there. Leon closes his eyes and allows himself to fall into a coma. In his spiritual state, he sees a purple goddess staring at him. Try to take my hand. Touching the glorified jade body of a deity is a familiar experience for the Lionheart King. Drawn to the goddess, he turns to his heart. The temple of all the gods is enshrined in the Lionheart, the only one item that generates its own holy power. It was a place granted to Leon alone among mortals since the dawn of the age of gods, paradise of the gods. There were those who waited for him before the magnificent shrine. "Welcome, your majesty." There was a woman with long brown hair and a cotton robe, but she had a divine radiance about her that could not have come from a mere mortal. Anak, the servant of a lesser god, meets the agent of the gods. Leon stared at the multitude of people behind the kneeling saint's back, each and every one of them a servant of the gods who had reached the pinnacle of their mortal existence and deserved to dine with the gods in the great hall. Ancient Lionheart kings, great holy knights, sages of the forest, and champions of the gods. Welcome, greatest Grail Keeper. It was a paradise created by the gods for mortals, and in the center of that temple, the heroes and believers bowed before him. Chapter 49. Paradise of the Gods. Anak, it's been a while. Is paradise comfortable? Thanks to your majesty's protection. Anak Prothesia, High Priestess of the Temple of 10,000 Gods, stood with Leon until the final battle, when she fell at the hands of demons 180 years ago, but she was not alone. Lord Gildas Sir Antoine, you're all good. Gildas, the Holy Knight, Belton, the legendary Ogre Slayer, and Your Majesty. Emperor! Argent Majesty Lionheart, Leon's ancestral Lionheart King. Such legendary heroes stood before Leon. Unlike those who lived and died in ordinary lives, they lived lives of honor and glory and went to be with the gods. This was their paradise, heaven and hell in earthly terms. The afterlife, which, according to the Book of 10,000 Gods, is divided into a resting place and a place of soul purification. New souls must have come here. Have you heard any rumors? Leon asked, referring to the dead trainees at the gate, and Argent Lionheart said, The first new souls in 180 years. Rest assured they are welcome. Indeed. Normally, entering the afterlife is a taboo for the living. But for Leon, who represents the gods of the Temple of 10,000 Gods, it was permitted. Ordinarily, I would greet the gods of the Temple of the 10,000 Gods and seek to resolve this dispute, but the situation is urgent. I must borrow the wisdom of the ancestors. I will give you my friend Petelion. The horse offered by the ancestral Lionheart King of Argent was a stately, muscular black horse. The only difference was that it had wings. Petelion, a celestial horse that only a few of the Lionheart kings had ever handled, had died fighting a demon lord alongside the Argent Lionheart King. Leon rides him and floats into the vastness of the sky. In this paradise of the honored, the steeds that serve them in life also live on. As he rides across the open meadows, many night steeds recognize the kings and bow their heads. Perhaps someday he and Stallion will ride through this place. No, not now, not without leaving a legacy. Leon sees this paradise as the last bastion of the gods, a community of shared destiny. As such, he allowed himself many of the taboos imposed on mortals. Over there, Lord Petelion. Purr! Purr! Understanding Leon's words, the Pegasus landed in the middle of the forest at the mouth of paradise, and the dark forest shook as he landed. Lion Heart, the rightful Archduke of Dragonia, Lord of the Sacred Objects. The voices echoed throughout the forest, and one need not look far to see that the dense giants around them were all sages. I apologize for trespassing on your territory, sages of the forest. To you, to the Lion King, all living things are indebted. Even the gods. You need not be polite. The forest always welcomes you. Honorable, descendant of a dragon slayer, heir to the lion's heart. For what purpose? To visit the paradise. Leon was pleased with their reception, and mouthed the name of a sage. "I wish to meet the youngest sage among you, my friend Gunnar." The forest moved, and one of the sleeping giants stirred, revealing its features through the rough bark. These forest spirits, called tree men, are the awakened selves of the oldest trees. Leon, my old friend. Gunnar the tree giant was Leon's traveling companion from his days as an acolyte and a comrade in arms in the last war. He bent down to his roots, over 15 meters tall, and locked eyes with Leon. "What brings you to me?" "I need your seedlings." "Who?" Tree men who have risen through the ranks to become sages of the forest are given the opportunity to plant a tree. You did not plant a seedling before you were laid to rest in the arms paradise, so you must plant a seedling of your own. Is it urgent? This world, Earth, this king's home world, is being invaded by evil species. This expedition has shown me that their plot has reached alarming proportions. Leon remembered the Demon Gate in Queen Beatrice's Spiro kingdom. A gate tampered with by someone, and a kingdom where the demons of pleasure ran amok meant one thing. They have sensed my presence and have begun to play tricks on me. They must have infiltrated this world as well, just like the Empire. What makes demons so terrifying is not their strength, nor their infinite resurrection. It's that they corrupt humans, rotting them from the inside out. Their ghostly movements had to be stopped, at least where Leon was active. You're the only one alive who can take these things from the underworld, and that's good. Gunnar gladly handed Leon his seedling. The tiny seedling, barely 10 centimeters tall, looked fragile, as if it could snap in the wind. The moment you plant this, you'll attract the attention of the evil ones. It'll be dangerous. I'm prepared for that. Accepting the seedling, he hurried back to the temple. This was the world of the dead, and no good could come for the living to linger among them. "It has been a pleasure to see you, my old friend." Gunnar's voice echoed through the forest. Leon was about to return Gunnar's seedlings. "Lord Leon, Sir Gratas." Holy Knight Gratas, the giant slayer, is a holy knight 2 generations older than Leon and a friend of Leon's mentor, Sir Gordix. He is also the author of the Holy Knight's Army Training Manual. But that was not all. Saint Anarch and the 13th Lionheart King, Argent Majesty Lionheart, also came to him. "What can I do for you all?" Leon asked, and Argent spoke for them. "After much discussion, I have decided to give you something you need right now. In this world, there are limits to holy power, so there are limits to what you can do." King Argent Lionheart placed a set of reins in Leon's hands. "This is the reins of a master trainer who can control even illusory beasts. When I died, I entrusted them to you, and you buried them with me." Leon knew the value of this treasure, which is why he wanted the Lionheart King to hold the reins as he rode through the paradise of the gods. For no soul can take possession of a treasure once it has passed into his possession. "My turn." Holy Knight Gratas approached and handed Leon a book. "What is this?" "I have heard that you are training your soldiers from scratch. As King Lionheart, I imagine it must be frustrating to not have the elite of a proud kingdom." The book Gratas handed him was no ordinary book. It was carefully woven from leather and reeked of holy power. "It's one of my lifetime's worth of training tips, and I hope it helps. How to catch a giant with a serf. Isn't it a training manual from the legend of Lord Gratas? Something so valuable." Hee, no big deal." Indeed, a book compiled by the legendary Holy Knight is a holy relic in its own right. I was skeptical since it was only a story, but are you saying that you really captured a giant with serfs? 300 of the 500 died. Who cares about the lives of serfs? Rather, it was the effective use of those barbarian bums that was the achievement. As he held the gifts from King Argent Lionheart and Gratas, he was approached by Saint Anarch. "I will give you my necklace." The symbol of the Lionheart Kingdom is a necklace shape of a crossed sword, and Leon knew its value better than anyone. The holy relics of saints are treasures that can only be passed on through saints. How can I receive this? Who would argue with the acting high priestess of the all-seeing eye? Leon hesitated for a moment before accepting her gift. Tradition requires flexibility in times of crisis. Anak holy object would only be used once, but it would be of great help at a critical time. Thank you, everyone. I will put your gifts to good use. And with that, Leon returned from the paradise of the gods to the realm of the living, carrying a seedling, a holy book, and a treasure. When Leon opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was the items in his hand. The holy book of Lord Gratas, Grail Knight, the reins of the 13th Lionheart King, Argent, the holy relic of Anak, Saint of Light and Justice, and finally, the seedling of the sage Gunnar. The other treasures were precious, but Leon needed to find a place to plant the seedling of Gunnar as soon as possible. The president of the association will send new trainees. I will train them and finish a minimum unit. Recruiting more soldiers is not the only issue. If soldiers are support, knights are the mainstay. The association president has presented a great opportunity, but Leon didn't have enough knights right now. For him. Leon turned from his seat and headed for a room in the 10,000 Gods compound. He knocked on the door, a rare practice for him, and waited for the other party to respond. I am King Lionheart. Will you allow me to visit? There was no answer, just the door opening of its own accord, waiting for him to enter. Leon would have gladly walked through this door. You won't come in? Because you won't let me. This is how Leon shows respect. You don't go into the bedroom of royalty uninvited. You're a proper gentleman. Come in. Leon crossed the threshold of the Queen's bedroom, and he notices that the air in the room has changed. Just breathing in the air made him dizzy. It was a power of corruption that seduced the rational, nay, the living. Although not as much as before, still a man would have her at the drop of a hat. Queen Beatrice, I apologize for keeping you here in such humble quarters. It's nothing for an exiled queen, Your Majesty Lionheart, and I hope you'll just forgive my rudeness. Every gesture was deadly. Indeed, the next Lord of Pleasure was an ill-fated talent. Not that she can help it. The divinity within you is suppressing the essence of corruption, but not completely. For the time being, we must balance it. Divine power. Your Majesty does indeed possess much power. The gods love me, and a king as beloved as I am can do many things. Beatrice smiled at his unquestioning assurance, and he handed her some wine. It was a tribute from the association, but Leon was not much of a drinker. Is this a farewell drink for the knights? Because it's all I can do. Beatrice stared at the crimson liquid in her goblet with a weary gaze. Couldn't your Majesty have had them as vassals? The Death Knights may be ghosts, but they are not without power. If Leon hadn't sanctified their souls on the spot. No, if he'd made the knights his servants on the condition of sanctification, who could have refused, the Queen or the Death Knights? In all the wars of history, each Grail Knight ascended one by one, as they were destroyed by evil ones. Leon could have done it, but he didn't. To use the dead is an affront to them. How could I dishonor them and take advantage of their ghosts? Even if the end is destruction, then I will ascend with honor. What an old-fashioned, upstanding man. Beatrice knew the difference between this alien Lion King and herself. The Lion King refused to compromise even in the face of destruction, and demanded justice. The victor is not the wise one, but the one who stays true to his convictions is the difference between her and himself. You've been in this world for 2 days. Have you adjusted? I think I'll need more time. This is different from my world. Back on Earth, Beatrice was eagerly guided and introduced by the association staff, and realized that it was a very different world. The internet, cars, airplanes, all of these things are shocking to her. Leon was an inhabitant of a world not unlike her own. You don't have to adapt. Why? We are proud and follow our own laws. A king must enforce his rule wherever he goes. The lawless ones simply follow the king's path. The mindset of an invader? Not quite. To benefit the people through righteous teaching, it is the enlightenment of the Lionheart King. Beatrice smiled bitterly at the man's shamelessly enormous confidence. Well, at least he could handle the insanity of fighting demons for hundreds of years. I'm guessing demons aren't the only thing you're up against. Indeed. This king has a noble quest from the gods of heaven and earth. Leon patted his chest and addressed the queen. Therefore, I ask you, magician queen of the Spiro kingdom, to join me in this king's cause. Beatrice knew that Leon had triumphed over the demons in the end, so much so that they feared him. I am indebted to you, and how can I not repay you? Beatrice covered her chest and bowed respectfully. It was the least she could do for the benefactor who had saved her and her knights. But there is one thing. The queen's violet eyes glowed darkly. Teach me the power to destroy the archdemons of pleasure. The queen has lost her kingdom. History has repeated itself for 100 years, and all but the most loyal knights have fallen. The queen of a ruined kingdom was unable to fulfill her duty to protect it, and her only remaining duty is to seek revenge. Knowing her intentions, Leon gladly accepted the offer. I'll do anything to kill those filthy parasites, and it thrills me to see their souls extinguished by the holy arts they fear. Oh. Indeed, the holy law, the only way to destroy a demon, was what Beatrice coveted. In my kingdom, demons are executed by boiling them in a cauldron. They keep coming back to life, so it makes sense to traumatize them. Wise, for they are selfish and filthy. Have you ever driven an awl under a demon's nail? That's when they scream the loudest. I've skinned them and rolled them in a field of nails. Ha ha ha, that's very creative. The two deepen their conversation. Ha 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 ha. Hoo. The demonic butcher's laughter spreads, merry and eerie. Chapter 50. Lord Yappy's Big Data. Ha. Restarts her mornings early. She wakes up at the crack of dawn, does a light workout, and eats a fried egg with ketchup. Her morning routine is pretty conscientious for a modern person. Ha. Ree hasn't seen anyone get up earlier than her since her orphanage days. Ah, Your Majesty, have you had a good morning? Yeah. But Leon's mornings were much earlier than Ree's. Never one to go to bed early. He was up before the morning chickens crowed. He rises and swings his sword mechanically. Although he never breaks a sweat in battle, what kind of intense training does he have to do to break a sweat? You're an early riser, I see. Morning, Your Grace. A ghostly woman in a black dress, her face hidden by a veil. Have a seat, Queen. Leon offers her a seat, and the two casually sit down on a bench in the training center. Make us a cup of tea. Yikes! Ha! Ree blushed and prepared a teacup for both of them. Your Majesty, would you like green tea or barley tea? Come, my queen. Black tea would be proper, but these people don't know how to make tea. As long as it's hot, she's fine. I've been neglecting, but I'll have to hire a maid after all. Ree. Ah, yes, Leon said, gracefully drinking the barley tea. Ree offered. You may attend to Queen Beatrice for now. I don't care about your luggage, but I want you to dress and behave appropriately for the Queen. Yes. It is not necessary for you to go to such lengths. No, royalty must be properly attended to and cared for. Then, did you say you were Miss Rye? The Queen's veiled gaze turned to Ree. Ah, yes. I sense an intense aura of fire coming from you, and if you don't mind, I'd like to take a look. Did she recognize her unique skill? The Queen's unexpected suggestion caught Leon off guard. Very well then, draw your sword. You've been carrying the load, and you deserve it. Leon hands over the sword, as if she's honored to be taught by King Lionheart himself. Ree hesitantly took the sword. Where did your swordsmanship come from? I learned it from my master at the academy. I've heard that he was a promising swordsman before the cataclysm. Show me your swordsmanship. I'll take a look. Yes, yes. Ha! Rhi gripped the wooden sword and stood as Leon instructed. As a recent graduate of the Hunter Academy, she hadn't had much training, and what she had learned was basic swordsmanship, so there was a gap in her skills compared to the arcane skills that the 10 guilds kept hidden. Rejecting the offers of the 10 guilds in the draft, Rhi had to develop her own swordsmanship on her own. Rhi swings the sword as she imagines a swift, loud blow that slices through space. Rhi was a prodigy. It's a big move. Yes. It was fast, but that's all. A fast sword that relied on physical ability has many gaps and a large range. That's assuming you use your abilities. Well, yes, sir. You recognized it right away, didn't you? Because I saw it when you fought that honorable knight at the Hunan Gate. Leon remembered fighting the Dullahan. Watch this king closely. Swords are meant to be swung hard, but in short bursts. Leon takes up the sword himself, assumes a top stance, and strikes down with a light, quick slash. It seems light and simple at first, but the movements are small and unassuming. He had such skill that even the queen admired it, and then, Quazic! Sharp sword winds scraped the floor and cut through the outer walls. It was a terrifying sword wind that would tear the entire training center apart with just a little more force. It's easy enough. Try to imitate it by swinging the sword 10,000 times a day. And then there's the blessing of fire, which requires you to swing the sword with all your might to maximize its power. Demonstrate it once more by using it. Rhi's unique skill, Blessing of Fire, gave her heat resistance and the ability to convert magic into fire. It requires a medium, and in the hustle and bustle of battle, it's most efficient to use a sword as a medium to ignite the fire and swing it with full force. When combined with her own unique skill, Blessing of Fire, Rhi's swordplay was quite colorful and convincing. Beatrice, what do you think? Her use of fire is immature. The queen stood up and drew her sword. It was a sword from the royal family of Sparrow. The only way to use fire with swordsmanship is to imbue the sword with fire magic. The queen snapped her fingers and fire leapt from her sword. It was a fire created by magic. Fire is a fragile power, she said. It must be compressed, not scattered. Beatrice's words were true, and the fire in her sword was compressed to the limit. Unlike Rhi's fire, which quickly scatters around the sword, hers clings to the blade, unbroken. Her movements as she demonstrated with the fire sword were as beautiful as if she were dancing, causing Rhi to let out an involuntary gasp of admiration. Just then, releasing the compressed fire, a deadly move. The sword soared towards the sky, and in the next instant, a fiercely spinning flame shot out like a cannonball, tearing a hole in the clouds. A hole in the sky. Rhi stared dumbfounded at the sky above her. Compressed fire doesn't leave flesh behind. You just have to compress it to a high enough temperature to turn it into ash. Easy, right? Not easy. Rhi had been taught by some of the greatest minds in the world, but the words of geniuses were hard to understand. The new cadets have arrived. The association has announced the achievements of Leon's first class of cadets and promoted them all at once. Really, all those 10,000-year D ranks just got promoted to C rank. Tell note. They're mocking the hunters who were stuck to D rank for a long time. You saw the video. It's insane. I can't believe the Ds survived that long against the demons, and in a fluctuation gate too. The video of the first class's graduation ceremony also played a role. Yes, I learned a lot. It's been really rewarding. The trainees were sincere. For many of them, Leon was a salvation from the horrors of D rank and death, but Yappy, who's filming the ceremony, cuts the interview and then gives instructions again. Above average text content. Squeeze every last bit of vocabulary out of him. No, even if you tell me to extract it. Machine gun pointed. I will. The cadets who have passed with distinction will be rewarded. 7 of the 43 trainees who completed the ceremony were presented with enhancers refined from the heart of an orc warrior. It was a valuable item that ordinary D-rank hunters would never be able to afford. The recipients were hunters such as Kude, Sung, and Kim Du-han, who had actively demonstrated their judgment in battle, which also drew the enthusiasm of many hunters. What in the world, giving a mere D-rank hunter the heart of an orc warrior? Even mid-tier guilds get to up, and comers. Well, this is one hell of a lucky break. The training was great, and the treatment was great. Even the guild members who have become official soldiers are given blessed crops for free. Wow, I'm so happy. The 10,000 Gods Guild is the best. You should all join the 10,000 Gods Guild. His Majesty Leon is a good man and treats everyone well. I didn't say that because of the machine gun behind the camera. Wah! I have to report to the chief and the president of the association. I have to feed the new trainees potatoes and sweet potatoes. I have to change the armor, but where do I get a blacksmith? Leon is not the type to sweat the small stuff. He considers it a disgrace to do such chores, so naturally he has other people do it instead. Taxes. What do I do about this? There was that too, but Leon still refuses to pay taxes. The king can't pay taxes, he said. The association has been doing things in a way to accommodate him as much as possible. For example, rice delivered from the Naju plain is refunded and treated as tax. It also took coordination with the local military government to ensure that the majority of the taxes were used for the benefit of the residents, as per Leon's instructions, amidst a ridiculous tax rate of 90% within the 10,000 Gods Guild. They couldn't just build facilities for the residents' convenience with private capital. Accounting is not my specialty. Ha! Riz head hurt. She had learned how to pay taxes at the Hunter Academy in Korea, but this was out of the question. Ha! Ri was carrying snacks for hunters as she wrapped her head in her hands. Ha, Rai! Lord Yappy! Yappy was hovering on the hallway ceiling, defying gravity. What a surprise. Whenever she sees Yappy in the dark, it makes her jump. No accounting? It was an unexpected comment from Yappy, who must have heard Ri talking to herself, wanting to share accounting duties to increase efficiency. Lord Yappy. That's right. The 10,000 Gods Guild had an all-around holy night, Lord Yappy. Well, we also need to account for expenses and pay taxes, and I've been to the accountants, but I don't pay taxes is a stretch. Big data notes. Hunter applying the special administrative law can process hunter meal expenses, registered to produce own equipment. What? Ri remembered that last month the trainees had only spent 38,000 won on sugar and salt, but in the accounting, it was registered as 38 million won. It wasn't stealing. It was accounting manipulation. Well, there must be something wrong with that. Not wrong. Crop prices in the Naju plain skyrocketed. Utilizing the special support type of the Agriculture and Fisheries Act, purchase tax credit. So, you're buying crops at a premium and including them in the hunter's food allowance. Isn't that a scam? Separating businesses. 10,000 Gods Farm and 10,000 Gods Guild are strictly separate entities. Utilize special support for 10,000 Gods Farm. Additional tax exemptions. Utilize the Trainee Family Support Project. Register a welfare business in the name of 10,000 Gods Guild and utilize additional tax exemptions. Registering an independent pension business. Increase asset value through investment. He downloaded the country's legal system in 0.1 cents and found loopholes in the law in an instant. Is this big data? Ri marvels at Yappy's intelligent computing power that finds solutions in a fraction of a second. Wow, That's really helpful. I think I can put this issue to rest for now. Ha, Rai. Mom. There was nothing more Rai could ask for since Yappy had taken care of things so quickly. She now spoke of a very personal matter. His Majesty has asked me to attend to the Queen, and since I'll need to hire a maid, he's also asked me to provide her with an outfit. A maid's outfit, I assume. Rai knows that Leon's worldview is very medieval. He's from an otherworldly fantasy kingdom, so it can't exactly be compared to Earth, but the maids he thinks of are probably maids, right? Yappy agreed. His Majesty, Leon. Similar to modern medieval European kingdoms. The handmaiden made an inference is reasonable. It is, isn't it? I was hesitating because I thought I'd be criticized for cosplaying later. No problem. Rational maid suit, order based on big data? I'd be grateful if you did. Ree didn't know that the big data of a maid suit that Yappy was referring to was aggregated data from online home shopping. It was the #1 product with the most satisfactory star rating. My boyfriend really likes it. My boyfriend really likes it. I should wear it more often. Yay. Yay. It was the scourge of big data. After Ree left, Yappy went about his business without a break. Hato, the god of iron and blacksmithing, had entrusted Yappy with one task: the rise of the 10,000 Gods Guild and the resurrection of the Lionheart Kingdom. To do so, Yappy must manipulate public opinion and spread faith, so he got right to work, utilizing his 1,398,865 accounts. First, he edited the video he shot of the fluctuation gate and translated it into the language systems of every country on the planet with an active internet connection. He also thoroughly analyzed local YouTubers, overseas YouTubers and channels, and communities related to hunters and religious communities. Among them, Yappy's latest concern was to investigate the strength of the Archdemon Androzin items obtained from the Fluctuation Gate. Dense ore. Strength measurement super alloy MDV or higher. Yappy sees the possibilities of this great metal. While not comparable to the new irons shown by the divinity of iron and blacksmithing, it is at least as hard as the super alloy mid-series he was used to in his original world. Similar minerals exist. A special mineral from Gate Mountain, commonly known as adamantite 99.8, identical. Yappy has counted hundreds of instances of it and deemed it worthy of purchase and study. Legendary minerals. 230 million per kilogram of adamantite. The budget required was enormous, so Yappy asked Leon for permission to raise funds. We need large quantities of materials to build research facilities and factories. Military funding. We'll always need money. Is the money from selling rice and the gates not enough? Not enough. Suggestion. Leon was only vaguely familiar with stocks, though he was surprised to learn that a famous investor from his time on Earth was still alive. How do you plan to raise the money? Game plan. Futures market manipulation. I forgot to discuss the definition of human with you. Leon recognized the A's lack of human morality. I suppose there are victims to your sordid money, grubbing ways, but you are a holy knight of the goddess of light and justice. There must be justice in gambling. Leon laid down a few principles. 1. Reduce the number of innocent victims. 2. The standard of innocence would be human morality. With its overwhelming computing power, i.e. absorbed human morality, commonly condemned financial crimes, etc., into big data and naturally came to one conclusion. It is possible to make a lot of money and still be moral. Discovered 187 suspected stock price manipulations. Engaged in immoral behavior, opening unlimited short trades. Using one of its computing power to manipulate the stock market. The computational power of artificial intelligence, which can turn even the world's best supercomputers into barbarians, has begun to intervene in the world's stock market. I will be a righteous thief today. The destruction of the world's stock market manipulators has begun. Chapter 51. Draft. Since the Cataclysm, the Awakened have been the nation's most important workforce. Awakenings usually occurred between the ages of 12 and 14, and they needed to be systematically trained from a young age. The nations of the world were not foolish enough to let their precious Awakened die without training, so they established institutions to train them. Hunter Academy, a state-sanctioned institution that trains hunters to protect the future of the nation. Here, cadets learn the basics of hunter combat and the use of magic, as well as codes of conduct for dealing with dungeon breaks and accounting for tax purposes. Aside from the minimal mandatory training, it's a pretty full-fledged Hunter Academy, with most of the time allocated to hunter-related tasks. Twice a year, the third year of the Hunter Academy's senior class is used to select new hunters for the guilds to join upon graduation. It's called the Draft, and it's a fiercely contested annual event. Hon Soo Ho, a third-year senior student at the Hunter Academy in South Korea, was one of the promising hunters selected in this year's draft. Who? Why are you, bastard, sighing on a good day? Jae Hyuk. Soo Ho smiled bitterly as his classmate Jae. It's the draft today, and the guilds will be coming. There's no need to be nervous. We're number one anyway. Oh, but it would be a bit awkward if a weak guild picked us. Hunter Academy's draft system gives priority to the weaker guilds to prevent extreme skewing of talent. Cadets also have 3 veto rights, so they're not forced into the draft, but if they use them all up, they're forced into the draft. The draft season is full of pitfalls, as it's not uncommon for smaller guilds to make backroom deals to steal promising rookies from larger guilds, then made them use up their veto power and snatch them up. But even then, it's an extreme mind game when it comes to the prospect of the year. The battle for the top rookie of the year in last year's draft was famously fought over Han Ha-ri, even though she entered the association. Well, we're in Class A, so we'll get picked up here and there. Didn't Jae Hyuk say you were going to join the Divine Sword Guild, and I saw you talking to their scout? Soo Ho mentioned, glancing at someone sitting on the edge of the room. No, I don't really like the Divine Sword Guild. If I go there, I'll have to bow my head to Chen Jin. Soo. Ugh. Soo? Ho looked over at the girl, who, unlike her classmates, who were all excited about the draft, was the only one who seemed disinterested, scribbling away at her notes. She had blue hair, light blue eyes, and an intellectual appearance that makes even the girl sitting next to her stare at her. Her name is Chen So-yeon, the granddaughter of Berserker Chen Jin-soo, the guild leader of the Divine Sword Guild, the absolute #1 guild in Korea's top 10. As the granddaughter of the strongest authorized S-class hunter in Korea, her entry into the Divine Sword Guild is a given. Despite her family's heritage, Chen So-yeon is also a top-ranked B-class hunter, a genius of her time. She is a genius swordswoman who is said to be capable of becoming an A-class hunter as soon as she proves herself. The classification of the Hunter Academy is strictly based on performance. Class B hunters are the majority of the class, and Class A hunters who have already awakened their unique skills are a collection of geniuses. Even in Class A, there are 3 who stand out: Han Soo Ho, Kim Jae Hyuk, and Chen So-yeon. They're called the Golden Trio of this generation, and this year's draft is strictly about who gets these 3. Aside from Chen So-yeon, who will naturally be joining her grandfather's guild, the Divine Sword Guild, Han Soo Ho and Kim Jae Hyuk have been in the spotlight. However, Han Soo Ho, one of the promising hunters, already had a place in his mind where he wanted to join. But are you really going to join the association? If I were you, I'd go to a place like the Firebird Guild or the Infinite Guild. Jae Hyuk understood why Soo Han Ha Ri who was a year older than him, was from the same orphanage, and Su Ho had always admired her and hoped to join the Hunters Association like her. Hyuk thought it was silly since in Korea, the power of the top 10 guilds is absolute. Just comparing the salary of an association employee with a decent mid-sized guild is at least double. The difference increases exponentially when you're a prospect in a top 10 guild. If you join the association, you'll be sweeping the gates just before the dungeon break. Didn't your sister tell you that you'd be working for nothing? Ri is a newcomer to the hunter community, but what she's equipped with has the community talking. Rai is a classer hunter. What's with the gear? Shouldn't she at least have a unique item? She's a hunter of the association. They're tax thieves, if you're an up. And coming hunter, you should have tons of corporate sponsorships. D-grade hunters can get unique items if they make a big investment. But Ri's using rare items. Even though she's only 20 years old and the next class hunter, they don't invest in her. That's dereliction of duty. That's why Hyuk is determined to join a top 10 guild. Even though he's not Rai, he's still a cadet and is recognized as a B-class prospect. The top 10 guilds are a hunter's dream job because they support their prospects. The Hunters Association. It's not popular with young people these days because it comes with strings attached, like a sense of duty and patriotism. All right, cadets. Today, the guilds are here for selection, just as we expected. Wow. Instead of the usual classes, the draft information session was packed from 1st to 8th period. It was a great opportunity for the cadets to hear from the high-ranking hunters they had always admired, instead of just introducing themselves to the guild. Welcome the Golden Lion Guild leader. Wow, Golden Lion. An S-class hunter himself? The Golden Lion Guild was the first to strike. A month ago, the Golden Lion Guild had been heavily damaged in the attack on the Shongju Gate, and despite being a top 10 guild, they had gotten the first pick in the draft. Normally, they would have sent a scout from their guild, but the situation was so urgent that the guild leader himself had to come. That was something that most cadets know. Nevertheless, the Golden Lion Guild was more favored than expected. They're still one of the few guilds with S-class hunters. Their vice-guild leader, Hwang Gyeonha, is also an upcoming S-class. Now is the time when the entry cut for the Golden Lion is the lowest. Perhaps I, as a C rank, should take a shot. That applies to the elusive top tier, too. Geniuses like Hyuk, who reached B rank in the 3rd year of the academy, or talents with rare unique skills and are expected to be selected by the traditional top-tier guilds. It's already the 8th period. I'm tired after doing this all day. We still have 3 more days to go, and we'll have to schedule a field trip during vacation to experience the guild building. Haven't all the guilds come out on the first day already? There are plenty of mid-sized guilds this year. The cadets exchanged opinions and dreamed of a bright future. It was time for a break, and it was getting late. Attention, cadets! An association employee loudly announces his presence, drawing the cadets' attention. It was Kim Jin, Su, the head of a department, and Ri's boss at work, so Hon Su, who knew him well. The next person to enter is His Majesty Leon Dragonia Lionheart, Guild Master of the 10,000 Gods Guild, who has been making a name for himself lately. Leon Drag. What? You know, the survivor. The one who attacked the Shongju Gate and purified the Naju Plain. The religious man? You, Chief Kim Jin. Su gasped and pointed at the student who had just spoken. Me? Yes, you. Do you want to see all of us die together? Seeing the cadet's bewilderment, Kim Jin, Su realized that he was lucky to come here beforehand. The man who was about to enter the room, as you know, has a different worldview from ours. He was more than an emperor in that world, and he is someone who strictly adheres to class. But this is Earth, A modern democracy. Please, please, if you have any complaints, keep them to yourself. I'm really, really saying this for your own good. Yes, please keep it. You've all seen the historical dramas, right? You're either going to mimic them or don't talk at all. You're telling me to imitate the manner of the historical dramas, as if you're the godfather of the Joseon dynasty. And if I don't, the students will have to bear the consequences. These were the same association employees who were usually so polite and bowed down. They know that they know they're the underdogs in Hunter's world. With that attitude, they might as well have given up on getting a class a pick in this draft. And they were so convinced that they needed to get the message across that they didn't want to get a pick this year. He's a cadet. 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 He didn't want them to get hurt. There was no way he was going to let that authoritarian classist bully get away with it. Usually, when a young, handsome hunter comes to scout, a question is always asked. "Hey, hunter, do you have a girlfriend?" A normal hunter would say, "Haha, I don't have one yet." But Leon's reaction was obvious. How dare you pry into the personal life of royalty? Thank goodness it's just words. They'd be lucky if he doesn't beat someone to teach them manners. What the hell was the association president thinking, letting that bombshell participate in the draft? Normally, the 10,000 Gods Guild is too new to participate in the draft. However, the young guild's actions were too great. Leon virtually single-handedly cleared the Orange Gate of the Hunan Plains, which was intentionally broken by Yong Wan of the Firebird Guild, and defeated the infamous Red Gate Yacht Spinner of Chongju, then made him become his subordinate. He took a bunch of D-rank hunters and raised them at least a rank, and probably more, bringing the Yacht Spinner and Queen Beatrice into the fold. Leon alone was already overwhelming most small and medium-sized guilds, but the problem was that there were no mid-tier A and B ranks. Using that as an excuse to give him priority in the draft, the association president is completely betting on him. He couldn't honestly say that the judgment itself was wrong, since the power that Leon has demonstrated is the kind of power that can change a nation, or the world. Not just brute force, but a position in the religious world that has been expanding at a frightening rate lately. Please let it pass without any problems. The bell rang for the end of recess, and the students took their seats, half nervous, half expectant. The 8th period begins as the door to the classroom opens and Leon walks in. He was a handsome man, but more than that, he had a powerful presence. The students felt it instinctively as they watched the blonde-haired foreigner stand in front of the lectern. He had an air of something that overwhelmed even the few high-ranking hunters that visited for the draft, and a grotesque power that could not be explained by logic. He was a medieval barbarian, a religionist spouting religious nonsense, but the young boys and girls soon, to be 20, something were forced to revise their preconceived notions. If ever there was an overwhelming force of nature, it was this man. His every step was like a perfectly polished piece of steel, and his aura was overwhelming. He's got an aura about him. I heard he's stronger than an S-class hunter. Is that true? I hear there are a lot of weirdos among the survivors, but that one, he looked like he was in his mid-20s, but the cadets knew that he was over 300 years old and could only swallow dryly at his breathtaking energy and strong gaze. The cadets understood what Chief Kim was talking about. They must be careful how they speak in front of him. Let me announce something first. Without even introducing himself, the students didn't know what to say to a man who didn't even say his name and started talking as if they should know it, but no one could stand up to that intimidating gaze. Even the next leader of the Divine Sword Guild, Chen So-yeon, was swallowing her breath, overwhelmed by his aura. With a snap, Leon's finger pointed at the cadets, unlike a normal speech or greeting. 99% of you will not become knights. Only the 1% who shine will become knights. He came here to find the sprouts of knights, not soldiers. This was not a solicitation or an offer, not even a promise of a large down payment and support. Only a handful of talented ones among you will be chosen by me. Show me your talent, I'll test you." It was an arrogant declaration, but one that only he could make. Chapter 52. Magic is inferior. Most of the cadets resented his arrogance in saying that he would only accept the best 1% of the class, not through scouting or big offers. Especially in an academy of geniuses, the true geniuses were outraged. "I heard he was a survivor, but I didn't expect him to be so arrogant." Chen So Yon, the granddaughter of the head of the Divine Sword Guild, was one of them. "Do you think you can be arrogant because you've recently made a name for yourself? There are many cadets here who are associated with the 10 guilds. This is Class A of the Hunter Academy's graduating class. It was a gathering place for geniuses who were destined for a great future. It wasn't as if the cadets of such a special class were being treated with favorable treatment and offered contracts, but show me your skills." However, apart from such anger and antipathy, the students did not openly express their dissatisfaction. Part of this is due to the trust placed in Kim Jin, Su, a chief of the Hunter Association, but it was also due to the fact that few students are willing to take a chance on Leon, who is no ordinary person. Isn't he a survivor? The one who attacked the Shongju Gate and closed it? His confidence comes with a track record, so cadets are bound to be cautious. Of course, there are quite a few people in the top 10 guilds who have accomplished such feats, and the Divine Sword Guild is a prime example. "Guild leader, I have a question." Chen So Yon raised her hand, and Chief Kim Jin, Su's eyes widened. "I've been careless." Leon's official title is His Majesty, the Lionheart King of the otherworldly Lionheart Kingdom. That much information has been released by the government. It's a general rule that survivors from other worlds should be treated with respect for their culture. Of course, they're ignored unless they have the skills to do so. Leon was not a typical survivor. He was classist, discriminatory, authoritarian, and a bit of a nutcase to watch from the sidelines. But the problem was that he was too strong. "Please, Your Majesty, grant me a. Tell me your name." Contrary to Chief Kim Jin, Su's worries, Leon replied calmly. "It is Chen So Yon." "Are you a noble?" "Oh no. There is no such thing as aristocracy in modern Korea." But El-Eon shook his head at her answer. "So you're a commoner. I don't blame you for your ignorance, but in the future, be careful with the way you address people." "What?" Chen So Yon's face turned bright red, as she was instantly turned into an uneducated commoner. However, she quickly regained her composure and asked with a cold gaze, "You said you'd try us out, but haven't you already received our evaluation data?" "The scouts receive the cadets' information before the draft, so they can gauge their worth and make an offer." Leon had received that analysis from the Hunters Association. "What does a piece of paper tell you? This king will look beyond it and see you for who you are." "What?" "I'll tell you the opposite. Why should I let you in? It's not like this is a job interview and they're asking you why they should hire you." Leon's expression is too sincere for a pressure interview. "This king will teach you. You should be honored to know that you can be a servant of the Lionheart King." The students' reactions were even more dumbfounded, and Hon-Su, "You Majesty the Lionheart King." Regardless, Su Ho cautiously raised his hand. "Your question is granted." "You said you teach, but what is it about?" It wasn't uncommon for guilds with senior hunters to personally mark and teach the rookies they drafted because their know-how is invaluable. In fact, hunters under the tutelage of senior hunters were often promoted quickly. "This king will teach you 4 things: swordsmanship, spearmanship, horsemanship, and theology." The cadets murmured. Hunters could learn swordsmanship or spearmanship, but only if they specialize in swordsmanship or spearmanship. Those who specialize in other skills take up other weapons, and swords and spears are strictly for ease of use, not to delve deeper. Besides, horsemanship You don't learn horsemanship because you're not going to get off your horse at the gate, do you? No. Apart from everything else, what's the point of a theological education? To be our pastor. Not surprisingly, someone raised their hand. I specialize in... You're a misfit. That kind of weaponry belongs to the infantry. This king is here to find knights, not infantry. You're too much. The archery specialist throws his hands up in frustration as another archery specialist raises his hand in protest. Archery is a great skill, and ranged dealers are essential for gate capture. Don't you dare raise your voice, you lowlife! Esk, tesk, tesk. It was an even more repulsive epithet, but Leon's ranged abomination effectively shut the student up. Arrows have their limits. Only perfection, with no limits to growth, is the pinnacle a knight should strive for. No. Of course, I don't intend to argue with long range, but it is a crude form of combat, and can never be a mainstay in a 100-man battle, where sword and flesh meet. In short, archer is a supporting role. The theory is that a melee cold weapon trained to the extreme will surpass even ranged weapons. In the first place, holy law, is magic universal. If you have the firepower of magic, what's the point of relying on a gimmick? If you run out of arrows, will you just grab a dagger and charge? It's a harsh statement, but in reality, the ability of archers to fight for long periods of time has been debated. In a field gate where supplies were scarce, or in a large-scale battle, the number of arrows would be limited. So mages don't need to join your majesty's guild? Raising her hand was a mage girl, one of the few in the entire grade, let alone Class A. Usually, mage cadets aren't interested in the draft, because they go to the mage tower after graduating from the academy. Certainly a wizard is handy to have, and there's nothing this king can teach you about that. Well, sure. Given his range aversion, it's unlikely he'd use magic or anything like that. But if you study theology, this king can teach you some simple holy laws. Theology? That was the most questionable thing. Swordsmanship, spearmanship, and horsemanship aside, what the hell does he mean by teaching theology? What does holy law have to do with theology? Yes, it does. Holy law is an expression of faith. What is this? Magic in a different name. I'm curious about otherworldly magic. But you say you're a knight. What kind of magic is swordplay? That sounds like fantasy to me. Given your faith, why not a priest, healer from a game? The light is on the side of the righteous or something. Most people don't believe Leon's words, since normally magic is a gift that few are born with. Of the 5,000 cadets at Hunter Academy, only 100 are mages. That's a rare talent. It's an even rarer profession in general, given that the mage cadets are being weeded out by the tower. Those who teach swordsmanship and spearmanship also use magic. Suspicion flares in Leon's eyes. You seem to think that magic is a blessing, granted only to the most gifted. Isn't that obvious? Leon continued. Holy law is not reserved for a select few. Anyone can do it if they're willing to learn. That's ridiculous. Chen saw. Yon raised her hand to speak up, momentarily embarrassed by the words she had unwittingly uttered. The way a normal martial realm hunter and a magic realm hunter utilize mana is different. While the martial realm uses internal force that condenses mana from within, the magical realm is an external force that radiates outward. So? At Leon's. So, what attitude? Chen So. Yon chewed her lip and continued. There are geniuses who can use both at the same time, but they're even rarer than mages. Your Majesty said that anyone can do it, right? Indeed. It's not a powerful holy law, but there are holy laws that even a street farmer can use if it's necessary for their livelihood. Chen So. Yon's gaze narrowed. It's theoretically impossible. Don't try to understand it with logic. It's not something that can be learned. But since you don't believe me, I'll tell you one more thing." Leon's next words would have stunned even a mage girl who had approached him out of curiosity. "Magic is inferior to the holy law."
What the hell?
The previous statements aside, what was this bombshell? The mage cadets in class shuddered and raised their hands, unable to contain their outrage, and Leon waved away the questions. Mage cadet Kim Day. Sue, inferior. Literally, inferior. Next. I'm mage cadet Che Nalin. Why is it inferior? Because a mage's magic is only the result of an equation. Next. I am Chen So-yeon. I'm not sure what that means. This is where Leon realized he needed to explain the crucial difference between magic and holy law. For example, let's say you have a spell that uses fire. What can you do with that fire? Burn. Isn't that right? Yes, that is the proper use of fire. But here's the thing. That depends on firepower. If it's a bonfire, it'll only burn meat, but if it's a thermal power plant, it'll burn a lot of fuel. Mage girl there, Chena. Lin, come forward. Yes, eh? The designated cadet. Chena Lin glanced around, then cautiously stepped forward. Leon found a suitable object and called out to Chief Kim Jin, Sue, who was looking at him uneasily. Chief Jin? Sue, I assume you have some training equipment here? Ah, yeah, that's right. If you have a shield, that would be great. Without asking about Leon's intentions, Chief Kim immediately grabbed a training shield. It was a semi-large round shield that could completely cover a person. Not bad for a trainee's equipment. That's the equipment of the Hunter Academy, the most expensive education in the country, paid for by taxes. In fact, the training shields are made of the highest quality minerals of the normal grade. It's safe to say they're semi-rare grade. How long would it take to burn this shield with magic? Tai burn? Yes. Think of it as burn it out, without melting it. Impossible! Cadet Che Na. Lin was right. Setting fire to iron would melt it, not burn it. Even that would require a great deal of firepower. Especially for a hunter's shield, which was made from a crystalline stone. Impossible? If you're an S-class mage, it might be possible, but you still need to melt it. Yes, that's your limitation. Leon said to the dumbfounded students, Your magic isn't technically magic. It's just the result of a rational equation. It should be called witchcraft, not magic. The cadets stared at him in disbelief and disgust. Unable to blame them for their ignorance, Leon began to focus his energy on his fingers. This king believes that the sacred flames of the god of war and flame will consume this shield. It could end in a melting point if this king wishes. It's up to him. What's a little faith going to do? To everyone's surprise, however, fire began to erupt from Leon's fingertips. Is he really using magic? But the cadet's surprise didn't end there. The moment the tiny flames touched the shield turned to ash and disappeared. It didn't even melt, just turned to ash and disappeared in an instant. What? A muffled shout filled the lecture hall as everyone doubted their eyes, trying to interpret what just happened. But the eyes, nor the mind, can interpret what has just happened, only the results. Only that the fire consumed the shield. How? The equation for the most important intermediate step in the use of magic is missing entirely. You create the fire consumes it. Only the result is visible in reality. This is the difference between magic and holy law. The obvious was said, and the obvious was done, so Leon didn't boast about how great his miracle was, since it was just something he could do with the illogical power of faith. This is not innovation or novelty. It's something else entirely. The holy law. No, Leon's very existence is different from this planet. Really? Can anyone learn this? Is this what theological education is for? I can be a mage. A priest? The cadets look at Leon differently. From an otherworldly pseudo-authoritarian to the indescribable Real. You can really do that. It was then that the bell rings, signaling the end of 8th period, and the heavy atmosphere is lifted. Time's up. Leon stepped down from the lectern without hesitation, knowing that he had used up his allotted time. This king will pick only the 1% Jade geniuses, those who consider themselves Jade, those who wish to become knights, must prove their worth at this king's gates. Only the charred remains of his shield lay where Leon had left it. Chapter 53. The Internet Dictator. Leon's declarations spread like wildfire, and the Academy's seniors were initially unhappy. Hunters are a valuable resource in their own right. Every year, small and medium-sized guilds, as well as large guilds, adjusted their contracts upward to meet the demand for talent. However, they've never seen a guild, even one of the 10 guilds, be so arrogant. I heard he's a survivor, but isn't that too barbaric? What kind of attitude is that in today's world? Isn't there a down payment or a salary? Aren't they following the rules of the industry? There were reviews on the Korean Hunter Academy, and it was posted as a real-time best article in various places. While the interest in Leon grew in Korea, there were also those who encouraged it. This is the case of Park Yeon-rae, a Hunter Academy alumnus and member of the Korean wizard community. Honestly, the man, saying that magic is inferior is ridiculous, and what's with the horsemanship? He's from the Middle Ages, so he's barbaric. That's refreshing. Park Yeon-rae looked satisfied as she watched the number of likes on her comment increase. Magic is inferior to holy law. Park was outraged by this misguided statement, but she couldn't refute it on the spot. She had seen the existence of holy laws that enforced concepts, but she could not admit the inferiority of magic. She had lived her entire life with a sense of mage superiority. Mages are the most powerful hunters, and the non-magical hunters are merely stalling tactics until they are bombarded by mages. But the holy law, the power to make magic inferior? A lifetime of training would not allow it. Alright, just a few more comments and then... Park Yeon-rae was about to check for replies to her comments when she realized that she hadn't seen any. Why don't I see them? No comments. Her comment had disappeared. What? That's not possible. What's wrong with my comment? She checks her comment, but she doesn't see her comment anywhere. She even checked her comment history and found that all the bad comments she had made were gone. Z, did you really comment on that? On YouTube? Why? But YouTube's response didn't end there. They would like to inform you that your account has been permanently suspended for serious violations of the YouTube community guidelines. Suspended? Why? All I did was post a few abusive comments. Not a YouTube warning nor a suspension, but a permanent ban. Why? Yeon-rae logged into her account. The suspension status didn't change. At the same time, Yappy's brain sensors, which were floating around the internet with a computational rate of 3, posted a report. Account suspension completed. Hacked into YouTube's centralized processing system. Traces incinerated. When he wasn't at the gate, Yappy was putting all his computing power into promoting and expanding the 10,000 Gods Guild. Naturally, his detractors would hack into the community site, delete posts with administrator privileges, and threaten permanent bans. Many of the banned accounts were removed in less than 0.3 seconds, even when the owners complained. It's like an auto-delete at this point. The internet dictatorship had already begun. Yappy immediately uploaded the edited video under the 10,000 Gods Guild YouTube official account, and simultaneously spread the video through his fake YouTube accounts. Shock! Japan watched in horror. The US watched in horror. Why are the demons converted in tears after seeing K-Kimchi? Tate 6 tips. Official battle report video of 10,000 Gods Guild. This fully edited 8-gig video, translated into over 100 languages, was the battle at the Fluctuation Gate. He added background music and sound effects, edited out camera work and poor angles with in-house siege, and interspersed Leon's booming voice with spectacular charges. The reaction of those who saw it was overwhelming. Holy shit! Is that a person? Look at the dozens he's taking down with each charge. Are demons supposed to be that weak? What are those bulls and death knights? How did they manage to pull that off? That's not all. While the fluctuation gate may have shifted the issue, the original purpose of the gate exploit was to showcase the effectiveness of the training of the first batch of trainees enlisted in the 10,000 Gods Guild. Indeed, the sight of the 10,000-year D-rank hunters forming a shield, silently repelling the demonic charge, and even fighting back was just as impressive as that of the Death Knights. What's with the anti-vibration? They're all tanks. Their ratios are shit. Why are they so good at blocking? Aren't they B ranks tanks? Doesn't that look like Kim Jin? Su, head of the Hunter Association? He's a B rank? Yappy commented with additional information. That's Kim Du-han, head of the mining team. I worked with him. D rank is that good? Don't be ridiculous. Yappy thought about suspending the account for replying and added another comment. Wasn't this gate capture the one that the Lionheart King-trained D-rank hunters had to capture? They were all promoted to C rank. Why do you know the details? Do you have any idea? Yappy immediately deleted the account. It further traced the IP, used a VPN, hacked into the consolidated database in 1.5 seconds, and caused a blackout at and around the actual IP address. The power would have been restored in a minute, but his computer would have been overloaded and short-circuited. Ah, fuck my computer. Confirmed by the house's pet surveillance cameras, Yappy repeated the same action 687 times. The entire world was the target. Even as this was happening, the videos of the 10,000 Gods Guild were spreading far and wide, and the students of the Hunter Academy were beginning to develop an interest in the guild based on the biased information they were being fed. Academy Cadet Han Su, Ho, a native of Hanwon Orphanage, boards the bus to the Naju terminal. Next to him are classmates Kim Jae, Hyuk and Chen So-yeon. There are more guys than I thought. Jae, Hyuk scoffs, then looks at the bus full of cadets and sneers. Well, we've all seen it. Leon's holy laws were definitely a culture shock. Traditionally, the maximizing power of a gate raid is undoubtedly the rear support of the mages. With tanks and dealers blocking the front lines and mages firing from the rear, their firepower was useful enough to change the difficulty of the gate. However, mages are few and far between, and even when they are, they tend to end up in the mage tower. The monopoly of magic is not new, and it is common for most gate raiding teams to not include mages. Even the 10 guilds are heavily reliant on mage towers, aside from their own recruited mages. But what Leon showed was a new possibility. He broke the monopoly of magic and made it possible for dealers and even tankers to use magic. Su-ho, did you see that? What? On the 10,000 Gods Guild channel on YouTube, there's an amazing video, and it goes into great detail about the use of the holy law. Really? Jae? Hyuk hands him his earphones to watch, and Ho plugged the wireless earphones into his old Hunter phone and connected to the bus's Wi-Fi. It's probably 6, right? Intercity bus Wi-Fi is slow. I use low. You're using your grandpa's phone. What? It's fucking old. Hyuk knew Han Su. Ho was from an orphanage, but he didn't expect him to live on a shoestring. You make a lot of money, don't you? You must have gotten quite a bit of money from the last practice. I sent it to an orphanage. You and Miss Ri are so eager. Han Ri and Han Su. Sister Han Ri was also in the video posted by the 10,000 Gods Guild, and her performance in the Orc Gate was shown. By the way, this guy is a real killer, Have you seen the fluctuation gate? I'm watching it now. It's a bit brutal. The video showed burning demons at the stake and brutally murdering them. It wasn't quite as grotesque as it could have been, thanks to the colourful video editing, but you could guess what was going on. By the way, didn't you say that your sister is also in the 10,000 Gods Guild? Yep. She has been there since the Lunar New Year. Han Su, Hu and Han Ha, Rai are from the same orphanage. In the orphanage, they had no choice but to rely on each other, and Su, Ho was a good follower of Ha Rai, or rather, he looked up to her for her genius at such a young age. She hadn't hesitated to join the associations when the 10 guilds offered her a hefty contract. She chose the association because she admired the association employee who protected her from the monsters in Dungeon Break. He died attacking the gate just before Dungeon Break, but he left behind a rank, a hunter named Ha Ri. Ha Ri is a righteous and passionate hunter. She genuinely wants to help and protect people, and Su, Ho, who grew up under her like a brother, admires her. By the way, I read that your sister was sent to the 10,000 Gods Guild, but what is she doing these days? Hummy, I only talked to her on the phone, so I didn't hear much. Su, Ho didn't doubt that his sister, the one he admired, would save people everywhere. They arrived at the Naju Plains, 10,000 Gods Guild base, when a familiar voice was heard from beyond the large gates. Hey, Lord Yappy, is this you? Is it really you? See big data. Numbers don't lie. I think it's too short though. Self-information confidence rate 99.999. Doubting big data. It's my sister's voice. Su Hu's face lit up at the sound of Ha Ri's voice, which he hadn't heard since the Lunar New Year. I have to surprise her. With his back to his classmates, Su Ho swallowed his voice and knocked on the door. What is it? That's right. I heard the juniors are coming from the academy today. Hey. The classmates were excited as they realized that the voice on the other side of the door was Ha Ri. Han Ha. Ri was the youngest A-rank hunter, and she received a legendary contract offer in last year's draft. Even though she only worked as a civil servant for the association, isn't she one of the top geniuses since the Hunter Academy was founded? For the current third-year students, who have seen her play time and time again in mock games, Rai is still the same cheerful, cool senior. But from the other side of the door comes the sound of frantic running. Okay, wait. Guests should respond in a hurry. No, wait. Lord Yappy, wait! Ha! Ri's desperate cry causes the gate to fling open as she hastily pulls down her skirt and greets the students with a reddened face. Hello everyone. You've come a long way. She wore a sleeveless maid's outfit that exposed her sternum and shoulders. The skirt was so short it was borderline skimpy. The spandex stockings are transparent, showing off her flesh-colored thighs. No, one in Yuppie's big data survey. A full set of 5 sexy Spanx-made clothes. 4. Boyfriend. Satisfaction. 9.98 stars. Numbers don't lie. His Majesty, Lionheart King. A culture similar to that of medieval European kingdoms. Maids dress reasoning. The results of the calculations and the ordered goods are the most complete conclusions. It was a blessing in disguise. Nah, sister, what is that? Oh no, I didn't buy this because I wanted to wear it. Big data ignored? A tiny mechanical spider raises the hem of her skirt with a mechanical arm to enforce the recommended maid wear posted on the sales site. Lord Yappy, please skirt, don't raise the skirt. Ha! Ri makes desperate excuses to the cadets who look on in bewilderment. No, I didn't buy this. Yes, His Majesty, the Guildmaster, is a medieval kind of guy, and we've had a queen recently, and that's why Lord Yappy ordered the appropriate attire, and I didn't want to wear it. Distrusting the big data? Yappy's red eyes were fixed on Ha-Ri. That. What are you wearing? A familiar voice was heard from behind Ha-Ri's cutout maid suit as Leon's eyes widened at the sight of Ha-Ri's outfit. He wonders if he's ever been so shocked since he arrived on Earth. Your Majesty, this. Leon's voice quavered, and then he burst into a rant. You disgusting bitch! Change out of those clothes right now. Hike! Ha-Ri, whose legs were weak after Leon's tirade, hesitated on the spot, and her pouty gaze turned to Yappy. Lord Yappy? You said it was me, and even when I told you it wasn't, you scowled at me for doubting the big data. Ha! Yappy spun on his heel and began to head nonchalantly toward the kitchen. 2 o'clock, trainee meal. Brine distribution commenced. Reuniting with his beloved sister was the worst. Jeju Island Gate. This red gate appeared in the center of downtown Jeju City and made headlines across the country as soon as it appeared. The red gate attracted a lot of attention, even as the recent high-profile Fluctuation Gate incident faded into the background. The gates, which are categorized as black, red, orange, yellow, green, and blue, are not uniform, but there is a general strategy. Red gates are the hardest, with the exception of black gates, which are the worst disasters in history. Generally speaking, 2 S-rank hunters are the minimum number of S-ranks needed in a raid of about 100 hunters. This is the minimum number of S-ranks, but it is generally believed that 3 S-rank hunters are needed to reliably defeat it. The guild leader of the Firebird Guild, an S-rank hunter and one of the 10 guilds, bought the Jeju Island Red Gate, but was worried that they wouldn't be able to capture the gate on their own. The Firebird Guild has 2 S-rank hunters, including Lee Yong, Wan himself, but at the very least he wanted to attract 1 or 2 more S-rank hunters. However, S-rank hunters are not that common. There are 20 S-class hunters in Korea, but all of them belong to the top 10 guilds. Usually, the top 10 guilds cooperate on hunter bills and profit projects, but only when they have a common goal. The larger, more competitive guilds were ready to rip each other apart at every opportunity. Would any guild be willing to give up their S-rank hunters for a Firebird Guild that had outbid them on the Red Gate? Negotiating time is short, and if a dungeon break happens in the Red Gate, all would be over. Rather than invite the 10 guilds to a negotiation table that could end at any moment, Lee Yong, Wan chose the most obvious option. I'm here. I paid you to come, but you took an early morning flight, you ghost of money. Our guild is in a bad spot. Hwang Yonha and Golden Chul brought up to 40 Golden Lion Raiders under their command. It would be no exaggeration to say that the Golden Lion, who had been heavily damaged by the yacht spinner at the Kongju Gate, had brought virtually all of their strength with them. It's been a while, Mr. Golden Chul. Senior Lee Yong Wan, you've been saving yourself since the government blackmail incident at the Hunan Gate, and you managed to get a red gate. Thanks to my self-sacrifice, I didn't end up chopping up all the other guild members. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. The 2 S-rank hunters stabbed at each other with smiling faces. This was the usual atmosphere when the 10 guilds met. Wow. The one who didn't even give us a bone to eat in this small land has provided us with a true sacrament. You've been on a bit of a hiatus lately, so I'll take care of you. The Firebird Guild wanted S-rank power and veteran raiders who could come quickly, while the Golden Lion Guild needed funds to repair its tarnished reputation and restore its power. The 10 guilds were able to come to a quick compromise in the face of such an alignment. The settlement is 5 for 5, right? What are you talking about? It's obvious that our guild is the one that's going to get the short end of the stick. Who else but us would come to help you, Yong, one of the Firebird Guild? If you don't want to, you can call someone else now, eh? I'm Lee Yong, 1. Junior, don't you fucking cross the line. The name was a complication for Yong Wan. No wonder his parents gave him this shitty name. 60, 40, no less than that. Okay, but you'll pay for the food. You can eat with your own money. The two made a harsh but quick settlement, since they both wanted to get things done as quickly as possible. Why do men have such stupid fights? I know. Oh my god. Kwang Yonha glanced at the short-haired beauty who had suddenly appeared behind her. It was Han Yuri, another S-class hunter from the Firebird Guild. She's an assassin who specializes in using daggers and has mastered the art of plunging them into the backs of monsters without warning. Sis, you need to wake the fuck up. Talk nice. 3 S-class hunters and 1 semi-S-class, in addition to more than 150 elite raiders, entered the Jeju Island Gate, expecting a steady victory and quest: save the slaughtered. Conditions: defeat the majestic Georgics. There, they see a knight. How dare you try to save those wretches in front of me, in front of this Georgic? You have crossed the line. A hulking knight in heavy armor, equipped with a massive one-handed hammer and shield, overwhelmed everyone with his fierce gaze and voice. It is I, the glorious holy knight of Lionheart, Georgic, who will bring you the divine punishment. The majestic Georgic's holy knight of life and abundance was the boss of the gate. Chapter 54. Jeju Island Gate. Jeju Island Gate. After the Red Gate, which is the most difficult gate, except for a few, appeared in Jeju City, residents evacuated en masse. If it was a yellow or orange gate, some people would have held onto the resident count, hoping that it would be cleared, but this time it was a red gate. If a dungeon break occurs, an entire city can be blown away in an instant. You're not going to skip clearing this time, are you? Golden Chul referred to the dungeon break at the Hunan Plains Gate as a political protest, but Li Yong, one nonchalantly retorted that it wasn't a big deal. If the gate's tax, free privileges are extended, won't you benefit from it too? Well, I'm trying to earn money as honestly as possible. Recently, the Korean hunter community has been buzzing about the expansion of tax-free privileges. The first of its kind tax exemption bill, which would exempt up to 1 trillion won in gate loot sales, was strongly pushed by 10 guilds. It's only a matter of time before the top 10 guilds like our Firebird Guild, Blue Star, Mujin, and Shark Guild push for it. Firebird, Blue Star, Mujin, and Shark throw some foreign migration news at the lawmakers they're feeding money to, and they'll scare the shit out of them and pass the bill. It should have been. The association is coming out strangely strong now. The problem was the attitude of the association's president, Oh Kang-hyuk. As South Korea's first-generation S-class hunter, he is a symbol of national defense. He may be old, but his influence is greater than you'd think, and he's been able to convince frightened defense officials and the government. Is it because of that lunatic Lionheart? Oh yeah, he is definitely a lunatic. Yong Wan asked Golden Chul, who had seen him fight. What's your assessment of him? Well, he's a little crazy, convicted, chivalrous, but far from efficient. Golden Chul remembered his time at the Shongju Gate with the yacht spinner. The ridiculousness of challenging to a duel a heavily armored, multi-armored vehicle on horseback. But his power is real, at least stronger than me or you. Even that's a bit of stretch. Even though he was the one who had destroyed the yacht spinner, Golden Chul somehow felt that he was not powerful. Considering the power of faith, even his current strength may not be his original strength. Thinking about it made him feel eerie. Was it okay for humans to be so strong? We should seriously consider my sister's suggestion. While thinking about his sister's suggestion, Golden Chul entered the gate. Upon entering the Red Gate, he was greeted by a combined raiding party from the Firebird Guild and the Golden Lion Guild, who were in a battle stance. Ooh. Oh, sha! The red stones that make everyone admire are the most common ore found in the gate and the resource that supports modern civilization. What's with the red stones? In a field gate, not a dungeon gate, this. It's a new mineral found in the bodies of monsters after clearing a gate, but it doesn't just come from monster corpses. There are also humans and other races called NPCs in the gates, and they also leave behind their own magic ore when they die. Only certain other races and demons don't leave them at the gate. It's also a job to mine them from corpses, which is why D-rank mining teams are hired to do corpse farming. Isn't this a level where you don't need a mining team at all? We don't even need to go outside the gate and call the waiting mining team. It's not like there's a lot of magic stones in the ground like this. Yong, Wan, and Golden Iron Chul looked at each other and smiled greedily. Golden Gate. Golden Gate. It's more of a metaphor than an official name. It meant a gate that poured out gold. Sometimes there was a gate of epic proportions, but a particularly epic quest. To be more precise, a gate where monsters were regenerated endlessly, spewing out endless amounts of magic stones. Check the quest. Yong Wan hurriedly opened the message window. The Golden Gate has a quest that releases an enormous amount of spirit stones. That meant that there were resources of that size inside the gate. And inevitably, in order to become this large, you must. Quest. Save the slaughtered. Conditions. Defeat field boss Majestic Georgic. War. This gate is a war gate. And... Please, please don't kill me. Not too far from the entrance of the gate, a certain tribe was being attacked. The attacked tribe was being slaughtered by knights and soldiers on horseback. Kill, kill, die, bastards. The armored soldiers mercilessly slaughtered the unresisting tribesmen. Ooh, what the hell this? They've seen all sorts of incidents and ugly things happen at the gate, but they've never seen such a one-sided slaughter. Hey, since it's a quest to save the people, is there a specific way to save them? Isn't it? The allied raiders immediately entered a combat stance. He didn't know, but he wasn't shameless enough to turn a blind eye to the slaughter. Now is the time to save them, if only to fulfill the quest. Stop! Just as they rush to the rescue of the slaughtered villagers, dozens of knights and soldiers appear, quickly weaving their shields and halting their party. By the looks of their clothes, they're not like those bums. Mercenaries. Well, is that so? So? The knight glared at the raider in the lead. I am Dalion M. Chain, knight-errant, second son of Viscount M. Chain, knight of the realm, of the Viscounty of M. Chain. Dalion's curious declaration didn't deter the Alliance raiders. This side has 100 B-rank hunters and 50 A-ranks. This is not a force to be trifled with by a mere knight and his horde. Rather, it was Dalion and his soldiers who must retreat. How dare you point a sword at a knight? I may not be an official knight, but what disrespect! Dalion rages. Then Huang Yonha shouted at him. You bastard! Can't you see you're being outnumbered? Why don't you just stop the slaughter? Massacre? What do you mean? He sounded genuinely confused, and Huang Yonha was puzzled. Could it be that they belonged to a different group than the slaughterers who attacked that tribe? You mean those bastards? Lord Dalion, knight-errant, made an incredulous face. How is killing them a massacre? They're not people, they're beasts. It's not a massacre, it's a slaughter. The inhabitants of the modern world exclaimed at the horrifyingly cruel declaration. Yeah, that's the kind of character he is. Apparently, there is no room for negotiation, and the raiders were relieved that their opponent was unmistakably evil. The battle began. A mere 50 or so knights and soldiers against a raiding party of over 150. Shit. Damn, these guys are strong. The initial charge of the knights was powerful, but it was easily blocked by the S-class tank, Golden Chul, and although Golden Chul was surprised by the heavy power. The battle soon turned in favor of the raiders. "Lord Dalian, we must retreat. We must retreat and call upon the Kingdom Knights for support." "That's impossible, Sergeant Zenma. We can't call in the knights for a bunch of mercenaries." Dalian was contorted with shame and ready to die. His whole body burned with fire, and he cast a strange spell. What? Magic? Knights use magic? He's a magical swordsman. Fight back! But they are the elite of Korea's top 10 guilds. The battle was won easily, but even so, Golden Chul and Yongwan expressions were not bright. This is the level of an entry-level mob. Knights are knights, but their soldiers are also of a high level. Aren't they minions? They can't even compete with B-class hunters. It wasn't just physical prowess. It was a mastery of group warfare. The morale of the soldiers was unbreakable, even in the face of disadvantage. And then there was... Hold on! Ariana is watching over me. Crazy fanatics. Chanting the name of their god, they die. The level is high, and the momentum is strong. It was frightening. What the fuck, those assholes? Fucking terrifying. The tired raiders stood still. What? The air is crushed, and a pressure that feels like space is being squeezed appeared as something fell from the sky. Thud. It was a giant armor. No, a knight in green dye painted armor. All eyes turned to the Green Knight. He wore green armor, a shield that covered half his body, a huge one-handed hammer, and a searing gaze through the eye holes in his helmet. His mere presence crushes the air and overwhelms his surroundings. What? Did he just fall out of the sky? It was a living saint, the highest-ranking knight in the kingdom, honored by the gods for his deeds and praised by the people. He chanted, "It is not yet time, soldiers." The soldiers pound the ground and sing of glory, cheered by the power of the voice. Georgic, the majestic Georgic, protector of Gehain, holy knight of the kingdom. The holy knight, majestic Georgic, has arrived. What is that? The raiders were baffled by the sudden appearance of the knight from the sky, but it didn't take long to realize why. Thief Pegasus? A phantasmagoric creature called a celestial horse. Winged horses have been seen at many gates, and the men who rode them were all unusual. Is that the majestic Georgic? The field boss is already up. Although they were a little embarrassed, it wasn't all bad because the field boss came alone. Considering that boss monsters usually come with tons of minions, this was a lucky break. You are strangers. Golden Chul froze at the words. Not only him, but all of the raiders dared not approach the hulking knight. Why have you harmed the kingdom's army? And according to your answer, my warhammer will fall upon you. What did he say? Huang Yonha was cut off, and Yongwan took the lead with a friendly smile. Well, there must have been a misunderstanding. Lord Dalian over there preemptively attacked us, forcing us to respond. What? You lowly mercenaries? Dalian began, but Georgic held up a hand to stop him. Dalian M'Chain, I warned you that your impetuosity could destroy your mission. How flippant you are in the name of the goddess. I apologize. Oh, they're more talkative than I thought. Maybe this will work. Your impetuosity led 6 honorable soldiers to the paradise of the gods, and if you were not the son of Viscount M'Chain, Knight of the Realm, you would not have won their allegiance. Outsiders, I apologize on behalf of my Dalian. No, I'm glad we've cleared up our misunderstanding. Of course, Yongwan has no intention of sending Georgic away alive. He's in apparent peace mode right now, which means he's letting his guard down. Field bosses are powerful, but as long as they're human, they can easily be dealt with if they're like this. However, a lowly mercenary killed 6 soldiers of the kingdom. What? Let's see. 6 dead. Only 60 to go. Chapter 55. Testing. The shocking reunion with Harry aside, The Hunter Academy cadets had a subtle look on their faces as they toured the 10,000 Gods Guild compound. This place is a dump. No state of the art training facilities, no medical lounge. The cafeteria. Is that a cafeteria? Why are they all huddled together drinking water? A guild's building is a symbol of the organization. Look at the ornate buildings in the center of Seoul of the 10 guilds. The Firebird Guild, one of the top 10 guilds, had a 100 billion won building as its headquarters, with numerous training facilities in the basement. Chen So-yeon, who grew up in the number 1 guild in Korea, the Divine Sword Guild, knows all too well what a building needs. For starters, they needed a facility for training hunters, a medical center, and a cafeteria. And where would the office staff sit? Miss Ha-ri, here's some corn. You can go and steam it. Oh, thank you. It's included in the tribute, so I'll give it to the king. They pass by farmers, stacking their crops in their warehouses with a taxation system that they don't understand. Lord Yappy, is this really all there is? Need more salt. The group of cadets stare at the salt-laden water in their glasses that appears to be the meal. This is the soldier training ground, folks. Die, die, die. Fuck you until you bleed. They were fighting with bare hands and almost no clothes on. A week ago, news broke that the 10,000 Gods Guild had received a new batch of trainees. The news was that all of the first grade cadets had advanced in rank, and the competition for the 102nd grade cadets was so intense that the ratio was 85-1. The 100 low-level hunters who had beaten the odds were shaking their fists at each other, ready to kill. Senior Ha-ri, what is that training? No, could that be called training? It was like a battle royale where you had to destroy everything in sight. Training. That's training? His Majesty, the Lionheart King, has a very profound intention for you to experience. No, it's not. The Knight Training Manual says it's different, so you can read it here. I'm out of here. I need to get away from this crazy place. Is everyone here? It was then that Leon appeared from behind the cadets. At his appearance, all the cadets stopped. Welcome, Your Majesty. The politeness of the trainees, who had been beating each other to a bloody pulp, was in some ways frightening. Today is the visit of the cadets of the academy who are considering entering the gates of this king. Training will be suspended for the day. The trainees sat down in unison while Ku Dae, Sung, Kim Do-han, and other first-generation trainees sat closest to the king, followed by the second-generation trainees. The cadets naturally sit far apart, isolated in the middle of the training center. Ha-ri. Just as Hansu, who was about to say something, Ha-ri jumped up and moved the seats in the training center. Your Majesty, your seat is ready. Ha-ri prepared Leon's seat like it's a given. How are Sir Yappy and Queen Beatrice doing? Sir Yappy is clearing away the meal, and the Queen hasn't left her chambers, but she said she was getting ready to go out. Then shouldn't you, the handmaiden, go and help her? I am guilty. Ri can't say that she couldn't go because she had to change her maid's clothes. You too, stand there. Yes? You're going to have to start training as a knight soon. How long are you going to stay at that level? Yeah. Ri sprinted off and stood in front of the cadets. I will select a jade stone from among you and make him a seed. Those chosen will be tutored and taught by this king himself, and will bring honor to our organization. It's still awkward looking down from this high, but the cadets seem to understand. Your Majesty, will I be able to learn the holy laws if I become your squire? Kim Hyuk ranks in the top 3 in terms of skill among the cadets, gathered here, so he was naturally confident that he would be selected. The holy law can be taught to anyone. However, It is only by the grace of the gods that any of you are qualified to use it. The Book of the 10,000 Gods. In short, if you want to learn the holy law, you have to convert first. The cadets are familiar with the gods of Leon's world, thanks to the 10,000 Gods YouTube channel. Leon thought most of them would choose the god of war and flame. In any case, the cadets were attracted by Leon's demonstration of the holy law. I saw it on YouTube and it was amazing. What about the fact that he just empowered the whole army? This is the most media savvy generation, so they've come to know what the 10,000 Gods Guild is all about and what Leon has done. But it looks like they edited the videos. The camera work is so perfect. They say he's stronger than an S-class. But is that true? Isn't there a little bit of bullshit in there? The big demon he killed looked like he was a mess. But isn't he supposed to be weak? Ha! Ri was dumbfounded by what he heard. Even a good-natured Ha. Rai would be furious at such a stupid thing. An archdemon is a catastrophe that, upon its appearance, puts the government, no, all governments on the continent, on high alert and, if necessary, dispatches their own S-rank hunters to eliminate it in advance. Have they forgotten that the archdemons that have appeared so far have been able to wipe out whole cities? It's Su-Ho. Big sister? Su. Ho, you can't be impolite to His Majesty. I'm just saying this because I'm really worried as your sister. I can see that. Ha! Ri was worried that Su-Ho, who had grown up like a brother to her in the orphanage, had picked up some bad habits while he was away. She couldn't imagine the Lionheart King looking the other way just because he was a rambunctious adolescent boy. Chen So, Yon, and Kim Jae. Hyuk also heard the warning, and her warning made them both a little nervous. We'll have to see what you're capable of first. Bring your swords to the fight. The cadets looked puzzled at Leon's words, since he didn't give them time to adjust. The time limit is, yes, until the last one is down. Oh well, you're not going to die anyway. The Holy Grail will heal your wounds. The hunters, who had been in full training before the cadets arrived, shuddered, but their bodies had already regenerated without a scratch. Ah, no, wait, what does that mean? No way, really. That uneasiness turned to certainty when Leon landed in the middle of the cadets, his steps as light as a breeze. About 40 of you. I hope you at least made it to this king's body. In the next moment, there was an enormous surge of power that was enough to make the more sensitive among the cadets doubt their senses. Dodge! Immediately after, Harry's voice rang out. Leon's finger shot to the forehead of one of the cadets. A flick of the finger and... bam! The cadet who was hit in the forehead was knocked back with full force and bounced like a fan baseball. But the huge aftermath swept the cadets in the straight line together. The cadets of Hunter Academy are the elite of the Hunter world. Among the growing number of awakened, they awakened at a young age, and by the time they reach their senior year, they are already battle-hardened. They're used to dealing with monsters, and they have the safety guidance of their professors, who are also high-ranking hunters, but there are several who have cleared the Orange Gate. We didn't hesitate, did we? Kim Jae. Hyuk couldn't believe what was happening in front of him, and so did Hon-Su. At first, we all panicked, but we immediately raised our weapons and fought. Hon-Su. Ho catches the real sword that his classmate was wielding between his fingers, and at the same time, they saw Leon slamming the sword's owner to the ground. He was too strong. The cadets never took unarmed opponents lightly, and the attacked cadet didn't hesitate to swing his sword at the instinctive stinging sensation. However, even with the sword and its unique skill, it can't even move away from the spot, let alone reach his body. What kind of monster is that? Chen So-Yon, who was holding her own sword, didn't dare to charge at Leon. Her feet felt heavy, as if she was dueling with her grandfather. No, judging from the momentum, it might be more than that. Chen So-Yon had been raised to be the successor of the #1 guild in the country, the Divine Sword Guild, under the tutelage of Chen Jin. Su the so-called berserker, she had more practical experience than her senior, Ha-Ri. But she has never seen a monster that can overwhelm hunters with its momentum alone, without even moving from its spot. Kids don't just rush in. Ri had gotten away early and was waiting for an opportunity, and Hon-Su. Sister, do you think you can win? No, it's impossible. He hasn't even summoned the holy sword, let alone his horse. Su. Ho wanted to say something else, but Rai naturally gave the cadets instructions. Being the oldest and an A-rank hunter wasn't for nothing. Do you remember the joint gate attack in the 2nd and 3rd grades? Just like the boss raids back then. Sis. But don't you think it's a bit unfair to treat people as boss monsters? In response to Su-Ho common sense tackle, Kim Jae, Hyuk pointed his finger at Leon. Su-Ho, don't you think he's worse than a boss monster? I agree. So, Yon, even you. Chen So, Yon frowned at the tingling sensation from earlier and agreed with Ri's plan. Hurry up, senior. I don't think it'll take more than a minute for us to be wiped out. Then it happened. Among the cadets being swept away like leaves in a gust of wind, a hulking cadet charged at Leon, holding a mace. The large cadet's skin was as hard as steel. Unique skill, iron skin. A skill that hardens the skin of the entire body, eliminating the need for armor. Bam! Ha! The cadet collapses and vomits up what he ate this morning, and Leon kicks his tongue. You're so weak, you trusted your skills too much and neglected to train. His armored skin shattered like glass with a snap of Leon's fingers, and the cadets couldn't believe it. Now. Ha! Ri's shout sends Su, Ho and Jae, Hyuk running, Jae, Hyuk, a spearman, and Su, Ho, a shield swordsman, attacked at the same time. Of course, the difference in reach between fingers and spears is incomparable, so Jae, Hyuk, and Su, Ho don't rush in and attack from out of Leon range. It's a solid, standard attack, but you're overconfident based on the difference in length of our weapons. Leon snaps his fingers. The same finger flick as before, but the difference was that he hit a spear instead of flesh. Bang! The spear pole snapped and bounced upward. What power! Leon's fist stretches out toward the defenseless Jake. Hyuk, but in a moment of desperation. Su-Ho instinctively raises his shield to protect Jae, Hyuk. Tap, tap. What Leon did was simple. He threw Su. He slipped his left arm through the handle of the shield, and Su-Ho was sent flying through the air. Simply grabbing a shield and throwing person into the air? Is he even human? Su-Ho flew in the air for a moment before falling down, and Leon tapped him with his foot to help him up. Come on, get up. You're not tired already, are you? Oh no! Su-Ho scrambled to his feet, and the two of them clashed, parrying Leon's blows, but his unreasonable physical strength overwhelms them both. Jae, Hyuk, what should we do? He's a monster. Do you get it now? A shadow leaps from Leon's back. Your Majesty, brace yourself. Rai leaps in the air, increasing his momentum. Her sword is aimed at Leon's defenseless head, but bam, bam. He caught the blade with one hand. Doesn't that hurt your palm? I thought you said it was a big move. Ri replies with an embarrassed look at Leon's point. You know my skills, right? At that moment, an explosion erupted as the flames that had been compressed around the blade burned through the air and shot directly at Leon. It was an application of Beatrice's compression of power from earlier. The god of war and flame protects me. Fire cannot hurt me. Leon didn't even get a scratch on his palm, let alone a burn. The difference in physique preceded the difference in power. But then, the sound of iron grinding against iron came from Leon's palm, as Rai had pulled her sword out of his grasp. I may not have your power, but I didn't waste it. She had talent, after all. With the sword free, Ha re-stabs the fire, encased blade at full speed. I thought I told you fire doesn't work. Still, she didn't hesitate, and Leon's eyes widened. Reflected in her pupils, a sword and a spear glowed with an eerie light. At the same time as Ha, re-stabbing Kim Jae, Hyuk and Han Soo, Ho attacked without missing a beat. In other words, the fire was meant to draw Leon's attention, but Ha, Ri hadn't expected that Leon would see Jae, Hyuk and Soo, Ho in her eyes at that moment. That's a good combination, but it was obvious. Moreover, if Leon dodges, they will collide with each other. He was about to step aside half a pace, hoping for a collision, when a sharp foreboding flashes through Leon's mind. There's another one? A frenzy of magic erupts as the hairs on the back of Leon's neck stand on end and a deadly bullet was fired. Chen So, Yon's sword specializes in stabbing, and her thrusts were also an art form in themselves. The flashing blade was aimed precisely at Leon's retreating gap. Not bad. Leon's voice was heard even by the fallen cadets in the corner before they were swept away by the onslaught, their eyes widening as they focused solely on the tip of the blade. Realize that there is an overwhelm that renders all your finesse and coordination useless. Ha! He caught the stabbing sword with his hand, not even looking at the flash of light from the square. Is that even possible, without having eyes in the back of his head? Leon held Ri's blazing sword in his left hand, and so Yon's flashing sword in his right, and his palms tightened as a terrible crunching sound of metal was heard. In the next moment, even Suho and Jae, Hyuk weapons, which had arrived in the space of 0.7 seconds, were shattered by Leon. Low-grade material made just by hammering away at it instead of capturing the energy of the stars. You should arm yourself properly. Leon's hands were still intact after having smashed the weapons of 4 people in an instant. What the? He actually smashed a weapon made of spirit stones with just his strength. Your Majesty. Pardon me. I am a demigod. They knew he was strong, but this kind of power is beyond their imagination. Leon's icy gaze fell on the 4 of them as the 2 failed to capitalize on a golden opportunity, and Ri cautiously raised her hands. Ha! Surrender? How can you surrender already when your limbs are still intact? Does that mean? If you want to be treated like a soldier. Ri shakes his head in exasperation. She has no intention of having salt water for her meals. Chapter 56. How strong is a holy knight? The wanton violence in the name of testing was over. The training grounds were shattered, and the sight of the craters sent a shiver down the spine of Kude, Sung, and the hunters. Even the cavalry charge in training wasn't at full strength. He let us see this intentionally. How strong is this guy? Leon sorted the 44 cadets into 3 groups, though they were not as evenly distributed as the soldiers. There were only Ha, Rai, and Han Soo, Ho plus Kim Jae, Hyuk and Chen, So, Yong in Group 1, and 13 in Group 2. The remaining 27 were categorized as Group 3. Group 1 will be treated as trainee knights. You are not official knights, but you have shown enough promise to advance to that level, depending on your training. In short, they were talented, but the other cadets looked disgruntled. You mean, we're not talented? Well, I'm the same grade B rank in the official assessment, and if I train a little more, I can reach A rank. Shut up. You're not even at the level of a squire. To say that you've been systematically training for more than 5 years and you're only at the seed level, I'm speechless. The cadets clamped their mouths shut at Leon's words. What in the world is a squire, and how could he demean them, the elite hunters of Korea? However, if you train diligently under this king for 3 months, you should be able to make some progress. I can see buds by the second, but Leon's gaze drifts to Group 3, where most of the cadets were placed. You have a long way to go. Leon said no more, but sighed softly and sat back in his seat. The training of a soldier is simple, constantly overloading the body. Bones break, fuse, and become harder. Muscles tear, regenerate, and become denser. What about the heart and lungs? Are long-distance runners born with them, repeating the same actions and pushing their limits? It's a very basic discipline. It's a training regimen, common to the hunters of the 10,000 gods. Leon's 4 weeks of compressed training overturned the limits of the D-rank hunters. But knights are different. I will raise you to be knights. One of you will be a kingdom knight. The rest of you will have to advance by at least 1 rank. I don't understand criteria, Your Majesty. Chen. So, Yon raised her hand. In the Lionheart Kingdom, there are 5 levels of knighthood. First, there was the knight-errant, a wandering knight who has never been formally knighted. These wandering knights must travel throughout the kingdom to prove themselves and earn their lord's appointment. For this reason, no knight will address a wandering knight as Sir. Knights of the Realm, Kingdom Knights, are knights who have proven themselves and received an official title. They are eligible for membership in the Knight Orders and become the direct subordinates of a War Knight. The War Knights are next. Leon shook his head at Sue. Whose question? War Knight is a title, a commander if you will. Next are the Quest Knights. Quest Knights. They are wanderers who leave everything behind to fulfill the quests of the gods. They must be prepared to endure decades of wandering to fulfill their quest. Decades. Leon was not disappointed to see that they were already fed up, for his own hardships as a knight had never been easy. I don't expect you to walk the path. It's too hard for young ones like you, Your Majesty. Were you also a quest knight? Rai had heard Leon talk about being a quest knight or a holy knight many times before, so he must have traveled the path as well. That's right. This king fulfilled the quest of Ariana, the goddess of light and justice, through the path. Thus, he became a holy knight. Holy knight? I thought I heard a story on YouTube about Yacht Spinner being a holy knight. Guess so? The cadets discuss the story of Yappy's edited YouTube videos. It's only teenage exuberance that quickly becomes a hustle and bustle. Quiet. The cadets are silenced. This king's purpose is to raise you to the level of kingdom knights. After that, your path is at the mercy of your faith and the gods. Leon continued to introduce the cadets to the gods of the Pantheon, and let them choose which deity they wished to worship. However, they were asked to make offerings to 2 deities that have domains in common, as knights are required to serve both. Ariana, the goddess of light and justice, and Petos, the god of war and fire, are the virtues that knights must serve. Kim Jae. Hyuk scratched his head and asked, so there are 2 places to pay tribute. Your Majesty, the god of war and flame, is pretty self-explanatory. But what about light and justice? I'm just curious. Because no matter how victorious one is in war, if the victory is not just, it is nothing but evil. Oh. So that's why. Kim Ja. Hyuk was quickly convinced. As Leon was finishing his explanation, Hansu, who suddenly raised his hand in question. Your Majesty, isn't there still a 5th one left? I see. I thought you didn't need to know, but I should explain. No need to know. It's as if he's saying it's a place they'll never reach, no matter what. Grail Guardian is a title given to only one holy knight after he receives the Lionheart. To claim it means to challenge this king's kingship. The cadets swallowed hard at Leon's declaration. It's not all about strength, but this is probably the only time you'll be able to challenge this king. This king's power is weakened from what it once was, and my strength is comparable to that of a holy knight. What? It's weakened. How strong are the holy knights? No, Your Majesty. How strong is a holy knight then? Leon thought about what to use as an example. He had the holy knight, Lord Yappy, in front of him, but right now he was weakened. Even the yacht spinner he saw at the gate was at the bottom of the pack by Holy Knight standards. The strength of a Holy Knight. Leon began to impart the lessons of the Holy Knights in a way that the modern Earthlings could easily understand. Give 60 lives. Yong Wan realized that this knight had no intention of letting them live from the start. What are you waiting for? Why don't you just stick your neck out? Haha. Fuck, that doesn't even make sense. I don't know, but that's an insult. The majestic Georgic raised his hammer, a one-handed hammer the size of a man's torso. You have harmed the soldiers and knights of the kingdom, so you shall receive the punishment you deserve. In full battle stance, Yong Wan chuckled, despite the tension of already facing the field boss. I can't help it. I'll die here. At that moment, behind Georgis's back, a transparent figure took shape. Her identity was Hayuri, an S-class hunter of the Firebird Guild, who used her unique skill, absolute invisibility. There are many stealth skills that blend into the darkness, but this one specializes in assassination by making the body itself invisible in broad daylight, blocking all sight, smell, and touch. Once she has her foe's back, the assassin is relentless and her eyes glow as she scans Georgic. To be precise, it was a skill that finds the weakest spot in the flesh of humans, monsters, and demons alike. But what's that? Weaknesses all over the body. She froze at the skill's incomprehensible report, but her ambush position was perfect, so she aimed for the gap in his armor, the only empty spot on his back, and stabbed her dagger into it. Bang! Bang! Huh? It was a sound that could not have been the sound of a dagger piercing human skin. It felt as if she had stabbed a polished alloy. What kind of human skin? At that moment, the shield wielded by Georgic slammed into Hayuri. She took a defensive stance, but the force of the impact was enough to make her dizzy. Arg! Hayuri barely regains her footing after being thrown around. Yuri, are you okay? Healers! At the same time as Yong Wan's words, the healers behind the raiding party began to heal Hayuri, and only after the 3 healers unleashed their magic power did her injured arm finally recover. A sneak attack. This level of stealth would impress the desert assassins. Georgic raises his hammer, his face in full battle stance. But a lowly assassin dares to attack a knight of the gods. That alone is a mortal sin. Miss Yuri, you sure you stabbed him? His skin is like steel, but I did dig in. At that, Yong Wan chuckled. This was the poisonous fang of Hayuri's legendary dagger, Galsa. The moment it pierces the skin, it injects the highest level of poison. The poison is so severe that even large monsters would die from the poisoning. Well, the Red Gates field boss won't die from this, but it's still a significant debuff. Ha 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 ha. His maniacal laughter stopped just as the eardrums of the raid hunters were about to burst. What kind of barbarians are you to think that you can harm me, Georgic, protected by the goddess of life and fertility, with poison? Georgic shouts as if he is unaffected by the poison. Prepare for battle, loyal soldiers of the realm. I, the majestic Georgic, by the protection of the goddess, am with you. Georgic, Georgic, the majestic Georgic. System message. Majestic Georgic buff is triggered. Blessing of the War Knight. Blessing of the living saints. Blessing of life and abundance. With thunderous cheers, the soldiers march forward, and Dalion, an errant knight, also charged on horseback. There are only about 40 of them, charging against over 150 attackers. But the outcome was different. Boom! Boom! First, the tanker that was trying to block the charge of Dalion M. Chain was knocked out by the blow. The main tank, an A-rank hunter of the raiding party, was unable to block the mounted charge and was knocked to the ground. What? Damn it! The raiders rained down ranged damage on Dalion and his soldiers, including the S-class hunter Li Yong, Wan archers, and a handful of mage-powered magic bombardments. But how can you harm this army I lead with cowardly ranged weapons? Holy Law ranged nullification is triggered. Weakens ranged attacks by 90s against all troops of Majestic Georgic. What? What the fuck is that fraudulent skill? The reduced damage of the ranged attacks didn't do much harm, but is anyone hurt? Aside from Georgis's questioning, wounds begin to heal on the soldiers who had been hit by the magical bombardment in their dense formation. The damage has plummeted and they're recovering.
What the?
The raiding party realizes that they're facing less than half of the kingdom's forces, and things have changed dramatically. First, they couldn't deal damage. Even as the dealers attacked the soldiers with their unique skills, their skin grew tougher and their armor became horrifyingly hard. It was an unreasonable defense, as if each soldier was a medium-sized monster. Little did they know it was a blessing from the goddess of life and abundance. Shit! It's the boss. The boss did something. Li Yong, Wan, the main leader of the Alliance raiding party, quickly realized what had happened. The cause of the kingdom's army becoming abnormally powerful was undoubtedly the influence of field boss Georgic. Golden Chul, Huang Yon, Ha and Yuri Yang take the main fighters to attack the boss. Tanker 1, Park Chan, Su. You will surround the kingdom army and diligently mow them down. Understood. Guild leader. Golden Chul and Huang Yon, Ha, who were clearly outnumbered even for a coalition, followed the instructions since they were actually reasonable. But reasonable wasn't always wise. Yong, Wan fired his bow to keep Georgic at bay, but the ranged weapon couldn't do any real damage to him. There is damage. Georgic looks puzzled at the pain he feels, and at that moment, the Golden Chul two-handed hammer is swung. A loud thud strikes the shield, and the impact through the shield must have been considerable, but he didn't even flinch. Good power. Ooh. Feeling threatened by a one-handed hammer the size of his own two-handed hammer, Golden Chul jerked back. The hammer smashed into his iconic golden armor, causing the compressed air to dent the ground. Meanwhile, the assassin Yuri and Huang Yeon, Ha, had gotten behind Georgis's back. Yuri, the fastest member of the raiding party, targets a gap in the armor with her dagger and dodges a hammer strike, giving Huang Yeon her time to prepare her attack. Kaya! Her unique gauntlets, which boasted 65R penetration, slammed into Georgis's side with all her might. Not bad, bitch. For the first time, she can hear Georgis's booming laughter. You dirty tough maniac! Despite the onslaught of the 4 S-rank hunters, Georgic didn't back down in the slightest. In fact, he was steadily advancing and pummeling the squad of hunters. Crack. Crazy! How does an A-rank tanker get knocked out in one hit? Even if it was a field boss, could a single human-sized entity be this strong? Wasn't the nation's highest-ranked raiding team, which had hunted countless boss monsters, powerless? Damn it, my ranged attacks are being halved. It's like I don't even do half of my usual damage. Dealers, do something! The tanks can't hold out. What are we supposed to do? What a difference a single night could make. Li Yong. Wan shivered and took off his glasses. Damn it, Miss Yuri, you said I wouldn't use it because it's expensive. Kids are dying. It's not about money. As if she had been waiting for this, Yuri pulled something out of her bosom. It was a scroll, and tearing it open, the warhammer that was about to be swung at Golden Chul was bound in mid-air. Oh, you almost got me. What was that? Him? Georgic looked at the ring, shape shackles restraining his arms. Magic, he said, and quite powerful, high-level magic at that. Is that all? Yong, Wan, and Hayuri approached as Yong, Wan unfolded a scroll, and Hayuri pulled out a second one. It was the most expensive guild item that could only be used by Vice Guild leader Hayuri and Guild leader Li Yong Wan. The highest level of sealing magic that binds even hydras. Theirs. The second scroll was torn, and at that moment, a huge magic circle unfolded beneath Georgic. Are this some kind of magic coordinates? You ignorant knight can't recognize it. This is a 2 billion flame burst scroll that I bought at the magic tower, and I'm going to roast your armor to a crisp. It was a deadly combo of 800 million binding scrolls and a 2 billion flame burst, burning 3.6 billion in an instant made Yong Wan's eyes water, but he thought it was a small price to pay to be able to kill such a monster. It's definitely powerful magic. Despite being bound by the binding magic, Georgic managed to wiggle his limbs. Is it possible for him to break free? Is that possible? Ha ha ha. Don't worry too much. You won't be able to break free until the casting is over anyway, right? Break free. Why would I want to? What? Georgic raises his hammer, and an intangible energy swarms around it. The hunters, wondering what the hell they were doing, grew weary of the sight as it slowly consumed the air around them. And then, boom! The gigantic hammer strikes the ground. No, the ground. The crushed earth caused an earthquake that was so destructive that it was hard to stand. The hunters, in their dazed state, tried to comprehend the phenomenon before them, but they couldn't. Their common sense refusing to acknowledge the reality before them. Of course, the S-class hunters boasted that a single punch or slash could cut through armor. Many of their unique skills boast ridiculous cutting power or cause destruction, and mages, who are known for their firepower, can be considered human artillery, but not on this level. The crater looks like a bomb went off and nothing was left untouched by the shockwave. The ground was just torn apart as that single strike had changed the landscape. Is this what human power can do? How can this absurdity, this destruction, be allowed by one man? How in the world did God give one man this kind of power? What the hell is this? Yong Wan stared dumbfounded at the ground where Georgic stood, seeking pointless confirmation from Hayuri, with whom he had torn the scroll. What about the magic? Cancelled. Never mind, just hammered. Cancelled? Magic can be cancelled? That's right. Magic is only triggered when the magic circle is intact after all, so don't ask me. The martial power displayed by the field boss of Jeju Island Gate, Holy Knight Majestic Georgic, was far beyond their common sense. Chapter 57. All seeds are equal. Tell note. To avoid confusion, the hunters Leon recruited will be referred to as recruits, while the students from the academy will be known as cadets. Like the trainees, the academy cadets were to eat, sleep, and train in the 10,000 Gods Guild compound. The cadets' faces must be a sight to behold. That's right. The first batch of recruits at the 10,000 Gods Guild coup day, Sung and Kim Do, Han, now enlisted as regular soldiers, imagined the looks on the cadets' faces when they saw their dinner. During their training, they had become accustomed to the vicious diet of the 10,000 Gods Guild. Massive amounts of salt and massive amounts of sugar. It was a diet of nothing but salt and calories. Only the professional soldiers, the first recruits who had been promoted to man-at-arms, were able to eat well now, but the memories of those days were as horrible as the source. The cadets, on the other hand, weren't looking forward to dinner either. There in the Naju Plains, which is to say, the countryside, I see the villagers walking around and they're eating what? Corn and potatoes, or canned herbs from the back mountains. Can you eat that? For the cadets, most of whom are natives of Seoul and the Seal metropolitan area, this is what it feels like to be rural. Although there is a gap between the cadets and the recruits, neither side thinks about the quality of the food, but there is one common feeling. The hunger pangs from the day's intense training were bubbling up to a growl. I could eat all the rice they serve. I agree. Jay, Hugh, and Sue, Ho, who were ranked first in the group, had to endure Leon's harsh training, while Ha re-gave them a pitying gaze from the side. Well, you better not get your hopes up. I'm starving, and all I can eat is salt and sugar water. Even in the orphanage, I'd never had a rumbling stomach. I'm glad there's no shortage of places for everyone to sit. Leon walked in. There were a lot of people sitting in the courtyard on roughly laid out seats. It was the kind of scene you might see at a middle school dramatic arts retreat, but Leon didn't mind. They would have to practice eating here in the rain, so they would have to get used to it. Bring the meal! At Leon's command, the gate to the courtyard opened and the residents entered with dishes. The dish they were serving the second-grade recruits was, needless to say, sugar, salt water. Ah, so this is it. I thought it would be different today. Let's have some sweet potatoes before bed. The second-grade recruits, who had gotten used to the 10,000 Gods Guild drill, gulped down the sugar, salt water in front of them, and the cadets' expressions twisted as they watched. What is that? Water? No, what's in the water? Alas, it's called salt water. The cadets' faces twist in disbelief as they realize that they're eating something like that. No, what is that? Sue, Ho asks, wide-eyed. Ha Ray replies with a dejected expression. Salt water, I added sugar. Why? Lord Yappy will explain that part to you in a logical way. At Ree's comment, Yappy came over. The minimalist mechanical spider gives a logical explanation of the sugar, salt water diet. Humans can survive on a minimum of nutrients and calories. Reducing food costs. Increased denim factor. Very efficient. The cadets were stunned by the vicious logic. Ooh, we have to eat that stuff too. No way. How can you live on that? When the cadets' faces grew heavy, Kude, Sung spoke up. Don't get me wrong. True to his word, the first batch of cadets, now promoted to professional soldiers, are being served proper rice and side dishes. Kimchi, a staple of the Korean diet, is served with the meal, and meat-based dishes are also distributed. The rice and local crops they are given are all blessed and rare. Aside from the taste, the soldiers were very satisfied with the fact that they were getting stronger and less sick with each meal. Just get through the training period. For the second-grade recruits, the diet of the first-grade recruits is a hopeful prospect. Therefore, they can endure, while the cadets now have to become aware of the salt and sugar water in front of them. Do we really have to eat this? Even Han-Soo, Ho, who grew up as an orphan, was stunned by the salt water in front of him, let alone Chen-So, Yon, the heir to the largest guild in the country. He turned to his sister, the one he'd always counted on, but Ree smirked and turned her head away. It's easier if you give up. Unbearable. Having said that, this is only the second time. Rai has had salt and sugar water. The first time, she saw the first-grade recruits survive on it, so she tried it to see if it would hold up. But then she spit out the salt water with a yelp and had to listen to Leon's scolding. You can do it, Han-Ha, Rai. You're an orphan, and you've suffered in the bottom ones of South Korea. No, orphanages are better these days, so maybe 3. Ree gulps down her drink, trying to channel her misfortune into willpower. The moment the salted glass slid down her throat, the extreme saltiness burned her throat. Salty. Salty. Too salty. So salty that it burned her throat. She wondered if she was going to get esophagitis, inflammation of the esophagus, from this, but the salty taste was quickly covered by another flavor, the sugar. Too sweet. If the salt made her mouth burn, the sugar made her tongue burn. The problem is that the flavors are jumbled and painful, and the same goes for the other cadets. Chen So, Yon, who has undergone a harsh training program, and Han Su, who knows from his orphanage life that to eat is to live drunk the water, but Kim Jae. Hyuk tilted his glass to the floor to throw it away. Cheating detected. With a snap, the swung steel wire threatens to kill. It's dangerous, he protests, but the mechanical spider is relentless. The military commander of the 10,000 Gods Guild will not take no for an answer. When the shocking brine meal is over, Leon stands up. Let's digest this and start training. What? Digesting something just because you ate it? Rai was more curious about Leon's reaction, which was different from the way he was used to. Didn't they receive time to rest after eating? It was the basic schedule for the recruits. Morning training, then a meal. In other words, after dinner, it was straight to rest and sleep. Tesk, you are not recruits. You are aspiring knights. Is that so? Leon's gaze flicked to Chief Kim Jin. Su, who was also participating in the exercise as an observer, apparently unaware of the shocking visual of the salt and sugar water. I told you to be prepared. Did you get it? Ah, that's right. Yes, I did. It'll be ready to strike sooner or later. Not soon. Right now. The second-grade recruits will rest and sleep as they are while Lord Spinner will supervise. Kude, Sung, Kim Do Han, and the rest of you will be ready to depart in 10 minutes. Yes. Understood. As you order, Your Majesty. The first-class recruits, clearly carrying military flags, ran straight to the weapon storage room, and the cadets could only stare after them in bewilderment. To coincide with the cadets' visit, Leon bought a gate pass. It was an Orc Gate Pass that was easy to get since by its nature. The Orc Gate rewards little for the effort. The most expensive item you can get is the Orc Warrior Heart, which is worth at least 400 million won. The problem is, it's a drop given by the tribe leaders. There's nothing about him that isn't intimidating, whether it's his blood, his warrior sense, his strength, or his special abilities. As such, it's usually reserved for A-rank raiders, and given their salaries, Heart of the Warrior isn't even on the expensive end of the spectrum. The rest are a handful of elemental weapons, and even these are too scarce to be a viable option for killing orcs that are at least B-grade. As a result, Orc Gates are often bought and sold at a premium. Such a sale was difficult for the association to handle, but when Leon stepped forward to buy it, the bidders handed it over. Orc Gate. Are you okay? Have any of you cleared an Orc Gate before? Chen, So, Yon, Kim Jae, Hyuk, and Han Su. The cadets couldn't believe that they had come to attack an Orc Gate. After being tortured with such a flimsy meal, they had come to the Orc Gate to digest it. Twist. A civil war among the orcs is raging. You are a mercenary who has come to join the fray. Help one side to end the civil war and gain the recognition of the great chieftain. Are we supposed to take sides? At least one orc tribe is on our side. The cadets breathe a sigh of relief. Normally, this is a quest that can be safely cleared by using friendly orcs as shields as possible. If you fight wisely, the gate won't be that hard. This, is it? Of course. However, the soldiers' reactions were quite different. Kudai, Sung, Kim Do Han, and the other first-class recruits had predicted the future. Su Ho was about to ask Ri when he realized something was wrong as a group of orcs approached from across the field. Are you mercenaries from the outside world? I am an orc warrior from the proud Tusker clan. Thud. The orc warrior didn't even finish his sentence before his head was blown off. A lance that had flown in from nowhere had taken the orc's chin right off the top. The cadets couldn't react as they saw the orc's head blown off before their eyes, and neither could the orcs. In disbelief, they looked for the source of the spear. No, they didn't need to look, since it had come from the Lionheart King, who spewed insults on his pure white steed. By whose permission does this filthy beast open its stinking mouth? The overwhelming sense of disgust, contempt, and hatred made their skin crawl, and the cadets weren't even the targets. "Stop!" A voice rings out, snapping them out of their reverie as the soldiers reflexively stack their shields and stab their swords. Thud! "Ye, you cowards!" The orcs, caught by surprise, fell back, but the cadets were unable to keep up in the rush. Now, wait a minute. Isn't this a quest where you don't have to kill them? Why? Why are they attacking them? Someone tell me why. But the soldiers didn't hesitate a moment. To kill orcs. That's a given. The greatest orc slayer. The effects. Deal 50 more damage against orcs. Fills orcs with fear, confusion, and despair. Spreads undeserved hatred of orcs. Then it happened. The system message flashed before the cadets' eyes, but it did not end there. Tiora of Lionheart. Defects. Grant's Legion hardened assault defense. Grant's Legion fortification. Grant's Legion strengthened battalion reinforcement. Grant's Legion strengthened valor. Grant's Legion upgrade light armor. Grant's Legion upgrade tough skin. Grant's Legion upgrade heavy strike. Grant's Legion enhanced archaic empowerment. Grant's Legion upgrade ranged resistance. Grant's Legion upgrade keen gaze. Grant's Legion improved anti-infantry slaughter. Grant's Legion enhanced corruption resistance. Living demigod. War Knight's favor. Tei Grail Guardian. Dragon Slayer's honor. Terror of the evil species. Demon Lord Slayer. Greatest Demon Slayer. Range abomination. Strongest charger. Crazy. What is this? As the cadets were shocked by the traits that appeared, Leon spoke up. Draw your weapons. Take up positions to the left and right of the soldiers. We'll flank them. A few of the cadets fumbled with their horses as Leon barked orders menacingly while he orcs clashed with the soldiers in a fury and their flanks hollowed out. Charge. Leon ordered the charge while the soldiers as anvils held their ground. The cadets as hammers became shock troops and crashed into the orcs. The cadets' combat strength might be higher than the soldiers, but they didn't know how to charge as a single mass. These guys. Ouch! The cadets dug into the flanks, but their breakthrough power was lower than expected. They didn't have enough strength to break through the orcs' massive size and heavy defense. We're through! The cadets' formation was about to collapse and crumble under the onslaught of orcs, but flames scorched the air and swung through the air, dispersing the horde of orcs. Ha, Re. Ha. Ree grinned awkwardly, having slashed 2 orcs and burned a third in a single blow. Careful, kids. Take them down calmly. At least Ha-Ree is used to this insane orc hatred, and she makes up for her lack of impact with her abilities. The problem is the cadets on the other side. The cadets, flanking the soldiers, have split in 2 and surrounded the orcs. There were less than 50 orcs, so they can easily surround them, but unlike this side, where Rai is present on the other side, are only cadets. His Majesty will not help us. And it was then that from the other side of the orcs, Ree was burning. A series of eerie voices rang out. You little wench! I'll cut you in half with my axe. Even in the midst of the bustling clump fight, a single cadet pierced through the space, thrusting her 3 swords. Chen So Yon, the granddaughter of Berserker Chen Jin Su and the strongest cadet in the academy, was piercing through the orcs' throats. She's not the only one. Hon Su, Ho, a swordsman, and Kim Jae, Hyuk, a spearman, were also coping with the orcs' momentum. As graduating seniors in the Academy's top class, this was not their first time facing orcs. Leon watched their performance while summoning the Holy Grail to heal the frontline soldiers. Han Ha. Rhi was by far the dominant force. She was practically covering half the damage of the right flank by herself. She's been criticized for her lack of finesse, but in a skirmish like this, she's an absolute force to be reckoned with. Now, take care of the burned orcs. She's got talent after all. If taught well, the god of war and flame will be pleased. On the other side, Chen So-yeon, Kim Jae, Hyuk, and Han Su. The three of them have experience hunting orcs, and they're good at it. Han Su, who uses his shield to deflect the orcs' attacks, while Kim Jae, Hyuk mows them down with his weapon advantage that makes up for their height difference. The others, on the other hand, are ordinary. Those four were exceptional, and the rest could not be said to be good enough. The soldiers, barely C rank, were holding the orcs' attention and couldn't make a single flanking attack. If it weren't for their natural physical prowess and a few standouts, along with Leon massive buffs, the flankers would have been crushed by the besieging troops. The battle ended in an easy victory, and Leon ordered the already exhausted cadets to rest and prepare for the next battle. Your Majesty. Chen So-yeon approached, breathing evenly as if she hadn't broken a sweat in the single battle. I allow questions. Why? Why did you attack the orcs? The quest is clearly to help one of their sides. We do not spare orcs. Not a single one. What? Leon decided it was better to declare it in front of everyone than to explain it to just one person. Remember, orcs are green-skinned beasts. These beasts may speak the language of men, discussing honor and glory, but their honor and glory are nothing more than the violence of vain beasts. Have you seen them build a civilization? Have you seen them choose conversation over savage violence? In the thousands of years of history of the Lionheart Kingdom, Leon has learned one truth. Orcs are talking beasts. They are just beasts that have taken on the guise of a man and covet the honor of warriors. Despicable. These trashy beasts dare to discuss honor and glory that only an honorable race can discuss. You must be resolute in your resolve. These beasts are not worthy of existence. They're just filthy parasites who should not live. On modern Earth, orcs are not treated well, to say the least, since their brutality and violence make them unacceptable to civilized society. But in a world where political correctness guarantees the human rights of orcs, no one has ever expressed such extreme disgust as Leon. Smash those disgusting molars and stinking spatulas. There should be no hesitation in slaughtering the beasts. The only good orc is a dead orc. There is no need for cowardice in hunting beasts. All that is needed is killing and righteous indignation, only murderous intent to destroy them. Greatest Orc Slayer spreads righteous hatred of orcs. Under the overwhelming charisma of Leon, the orcs at the Orc Gate were slaughtered one by one. He slaughtered them non-stop until there were no more orcs left at the gate, and the profits were far greater than the original expectations. Wow! 3 warrior hearts and a spirit weapon. The profit was close to 1.2 billion units, and while the individual earnings would be unreasonable for an A-rank raider, the hunters here are C-rank and cadets who haven't even graduated from the academy. Kim Jae. Hyuk looked at the pile of loot and calculated his share. There are 96 hunters, so even if we're being conservative, we're looking at 6 million won per head. I've never caught so many orcs before. Suho, you've made some money. Half. The heart of an orc warrior is an item that can fetch 500 million won at auction, so the profit would be even higher. With that, the cadets were told to clear the Orc Gate and collect their allowances, and they approached Yappy, the financial controller, with excited faces. They weren't used to having an A machine calculate their earnings, but they figured that a machine would be honest. Deposit completed. Oh, That's fast. Did you calculate it in advance? The Orc Warrior's heart hasn't even been sold yet, eh? After checking their accounts on their smartphones, the two were dumbfounded by the amount of money they had received. Excuse me, Mr. Yappy. I think you made a mistake in my deposit. No mistake about my math skills. No. Why is there only 700,000 won in the account? Shouldn't there be at least 6 million won? Kim J. Hyuk. Battle Video Analysis. 700,000 won. You set the bar a little high. No, but why is only 700,000 won in my account? Taxes. What? The cadets who had received their allowances came to ask, and they got the same answer from Yappy. We took it in advance to save you the trouble. The cadets were stunned by the vicious tax structure. Unfortunately, we are caught up on the Night King who returned with a god, by Saram Salio. Please check out the new addition to AI audiobooks, Descent of the Demon God by Hanjong Welia.